Hey, everybody, we are live and very excited because this is going to be, I believe, the greatest season of NFL football ever. And without any further ado, I will get started by introducing our group. To the opposite of me on the other side of the screen is raises your hand, Vinny Lospinosa.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
And in the middle is our NFL draft expert in residence, Bill Carroll. Bill, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm trying to keep my eye on a bunch of different football games at once, which is always fun.
Aha. And then there's me. I'm Zennie62 Media CEO and resident exhausted guy. So can't wait to get started. And so without any further ado, folks, the format is we're going to go right in and start talking about NFL Week 1. We're going to do this in a different way. We're going to talk in a way that's accessible to you. And as I do this, also, I'm going to be posting this on social media from time to time. This also, and communicating what's going on and what we're saying and that sort of thing. So if you see my part of the screen shake a little bit, it's because I'm typing something. Just to be, like right now, I'm putting this on Twitter that we're starting, and hashtag NFL, hashtag live stream, and then hashtag sports talk. So that's what this is. If you want to call this a podcast, I hate the term, but fine. I could care less, really. There, it's tweeted out. And we are gonna get started here with what is going to be an incredible conversation about the league. Let us go to the screen where we would have a look at, boom, that NFL schedule week 1. And
I thought you were going to emphasize that NFL is yet another organization that has plus at the end of its title now.
Yeah, what is up with that? Let's go through the list of games, who's who. We'll start, from the NFL kickoff. I'm not really excited about this matchup, but for some particular reason, people are hyped about the Bills, which I think is some sort of inside job. But the Bills are supposed to visit the Rams.
I think they'll show up at least, Zenny. So I think it will happen.
Oh, okay. That's notable. That's notable. I said we weren't going to do predictions, but what the heck? Why not? Let's have some fun. I'll tell you what I hope. I hope the Bills get clobbered because I'm sick of hearing about how good they are, and they haven't done anything. What do you think, Vinny?
Well, when I look at this matchup, I see that this is one of the 17 game matchups, aka this happened based on them both being in first place. Now, last year I was hoping that a matchup like this could happen because it's two really nice offenses against each other. Now, you have Von Miller, former Ram, now member of the Bills. That's going to be very interesting. I'm also interested to see how the Rams offensive line is going to look. And, I'm also interested to see how the Bills are going to look. They're a team that has so much hype right now. But, in my honest opinion, I think the Rams are going to pull out this one and get the victory in week 1.
What say you, Bill?
Yeah, I think that two things are going to be discussed after this game. Not only maybe are people a little too high on the Bills, but have people also perhaps underestimated how long it takes a team to gel with the new shorter. I mean, we already had shortened up the amount of preseason games. We've shortened recently the number of contact practices. All the things that it takes to prepare your team to get ready. Those things have been reduced gradually over the last 3 versions of the CBA. And so we say, oh, wow, this team's brought in all these exciting new pieces. And that can be true, but it will allow these teams that have a lot of exciting new pieces are going to take more time to gel than they would have in the past. And I am a huge Von Miller fan. I've been a fan of his since I first noticed him when he was 19 years old, right, at Texas A&M. Yeah, well, I mean, I've watched his entire career. I remember when he's being recruited out of high school. I mean, if Von Miller's father was a player, I can remember when he was being recruited probably too. So, and there's several players I've watched a couple of generations of, right? I watched Alan Hooker, now Herndon Hooker. I mean, there's a bunch of guys I could do that with. But the point is that I think that people have a tendency to think of the teams carry over from this season to the next. But each season is a discrete event. This Rams team is not last year's Rams team.
Right.
So they'll be a little less explosive on offense, but I think their defense will still be good. And this Bills team is not last year's Bills team. I think their defense will actually gel at some point and be a top defense, but not yet. And I think their offense is going to regress a little bit. And so I think people have underestimated certain things. Josh Allen had a year for the ages, but a lot of things came together perfectly for that to happen. I don't know if that's reproducible. I think he'll still be good. I think he'll still have about 3,700 plus yards passing. I think he'll be a guy that has about 34, 36-ish, somewhere in that range, passing touchdowns. But I think he'll have more interceptions this year than he did last year. I think he'll have more fumbles this year than he did last year. And I think that's what's going to actually turn this game. I think this game is actually lost on a late strip sack, or maybe he's even scrambling around, trying to create something, and somebody pokes the ball out from behind. The Rams get a late field goal and win this game by about 4 points. I think it'll be a close game, but a lower scoring game. So I would, if I were a betting man, I'd bet both the under and then the Rams by about 4.
That sounds like a very fair prediction. I would say it's a close game as well, but I see the Rams getting out the victory.
I only hope the Rams win because I'm tired of the Bills hype and the NFL picking. This is the NFL's latest team that it's picked to boost its franchise value. They did it with the Rams, and some may even argue that for the last 3 years they've been trying to engineer the Rams into the Super Bowl. I would make that argument, okay? And so they finally did, and yay, the Rams are richer. They've got the most expensive stadium and all this, and the NFL wants to show that Tinseltown is the most expensive area, even though in point of fact, there's some decline issues that I find bothersome. But
didn't it tear down like poor property or something like that? Like to build this. Oh,
yeah. So anyway, as far as the Bills, they've got a book on them. The Rams, I believe, will execute a short passing game, a power running game. I think they're going to do a lot more power running than people believe in this contest, just to keep the ball away from the Bills. At least that's what I do, right? And I'm really excited to see how the Rams adjust their offense and what kind of wrinkles they bring in to keep their players like Cooper Kupp effective. So I don't think it's going to be a blowout either way. I don't think it's going to be higher scoring either way. I think it's going to be a 20 to 25 point affair each way with the Rams prevailing. It will be a good game. People will talk about it. It will be a good game that does what it's supposed to do as an NFL kickoff. Kicks off the season, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. So now we come to my personal favorite, the Saints, quarterback by Jameis Winston. The new look Jameis Winston. Yes. Joined by
fresh off of LASIK surgery and ready to shoot the rocket from his hand.
Right.
Well, he's not going to do that. But the whole point is that, in my opinion. But at any rate, my thought is, I think Vinny's screen just froze. Oh,
no, it's fine.
Oh no, it was like the electrodes froze. But anyway, the new look Marcus Mariota. How about that? You got new look Jameis and the new look Marcus.
Yeah, 1 and 2 picks in the 2015 draft, and now years later, you look at them, they're just like this is just like their first game in the league where they were against each other.
Call the game. What say you will happen? What would you like to say?
Oh, I have the Saints winning. I think the Saints are the better team roster-wise, hands down. I do like the Falcons secondary with AJ Terrell and Casey Hayward. But outside of that, there's nothing really with the Falcons that really, makes me think they're going to beat the Saints, especially as, the Saints defense is still one of the best in the league. Falcons defense, we all know, I mean, they've improved a little bit, but it's still a long ways to go. I am going to be interesting to see how Drake London is going to be in his first time. I also want to see how it's going to be with Marcus Mariota running that Falcons offense instead of Matt Ryan for so many years. But even then, even with the Falcons at home, I still have the Saints winning.
Bill.
Yeah, I think one difference you can look for, Mr. Los Benuso, is quarterback run. I don't know if Matt Ryan has broken the 1,000-yard mark in his career, as Tom Brady did a couple of years ago. But my guess is he probably hasn't. In fact, I don't know if he's in the positive in terms of rushing yards in his career. So that's one thing I think will be different, that you'll now have some both designed and then some improvised quarterback run that will extend some drives and things like that. So
yes, he does. He has 1,469 rushing yards.
I tremendously underestimated the wheels on Matty Ice. Way to go.
Yeah.
But I think that they'll have more intentionality about running the ball for the quarterback than they've ever had since Michael Vick, probably. The last time they actually designed runs for a quarterback there. DJ Shockey had a couple of games where he took off for about 50 or 60 yards, I think, but most of that was once again improvised. So I think you'll see some design quarterback run. I think there'll be a lot of Zennie talked about the short passing game. That's really Mariota's strength as a passer, is short to intermediate, and they have one of the great short to intermediate targets in the recent history of the NFL in Kyle Pitts. And then they have basically a wide receiver version of Kyle Pitts in Drake London. So I think at times you'll see the two of them aligned to the same side and try to run some switch releases with them, putting the secondary in a little bit of a bind. And, of course, obviously the ever-popular rub routes. When you rub that with big-bodied receivers, it creates even more trouble than when you do it with smaller receivers, because it's a larger frame, right, to try to negotiate your way around when you're a defensive back. And it's, once again, they rarely call it unless it's obvious that you're interfering with the defensive back. So you can really make some hay with that if you use it at the right time. All that being said, they still don't have a great roster. And I'm going to say it's by design. I'll put that differently. But they're not built to win now anyway. They're built. I mean, Mariota is there to keep that seat warm for the person they're going to be drafting probably this season or the next. I mean, he could have an amazing comeback, and then they would delay their plan to draft a quarterback. But unless he suddenly plays wildly better than he's ever played before in his career to this point, he's essentially, like I said, the term bridge, whatever. And Desmond Ridder, of course, is going to get his chance as well. But they're set up in such a way that if it turns out that neither of them the answer, they can still draft a quarterback in the near future. They have, they're going to have a good amount of cap space in 2 seasons, right? So by the time this team is ready to win, they'll either will have their quarterback, whether it be someone who's on the roster now or someone that they're drafting. They'll have cap space, and they'll have a very young team. This team was one of the older teams in the league just a couple of years ago, and look at how many players from that team are gone. And that's going to continue. This team's going to continue to get younger. But so they're not – once again, they're trying to win. Every team's trying to win, but they're not built to win. And I think internally they kind of know that.
Yeah, like I'd be shocked if anyone really deep down with the Falcons thought that, like, oh, this is a team that can win now. This is a team that I see being last place in their division. They're not better than the Bucs or the Saints, and they're not even better than the Panthers. And, I do wonder, how long is Mariota going to be the bridge gap for them? Are they going to trot out Desmond Ridder on the field eventually? When will that happen? That's what I want to know.
Be right away. I mean, they want to wait on him, but I think they're a 5-12, 6-11 team, and yes, they're going to lose this game by about 10 points.
Yeah, I can see that too. What do you, Zennie? What do you see?
Well, I'll start with the Falcons. The media, I should say, 92.9 in the game has been in love with Desmond Ridder over Marcus Mariota. And the fact that the overall chatter out here has been so pro Desmond Ridder that if I were Marcus Mariota, I would be concerned. It really is that bad. Now, yes. I can tell you how different the Falcons' attack will be this time versus last year. They didn't have not just a running quarterback like Mariota, although the Philippi Franks can run. He's now a tight end. He's now an emergency quarterback. But they were using a pure version of zone blocking to a point where they didn't have the ends blocking in a way that was cognizant of the fact that, well, hey, you know what? Ends can go inside of you if you actually try to hook them on the outside. And it might be a good idea just to put a hat on a hat, right?
Right.
Well, this year, guess what, folks? They got that straightened out. And that was evident in preseason. They've really cleaned up their run blocking. And I think the Falcons are going to be a lot more dangerous than people give them credit for with that running game. Now, a large part of their running game is going to be Marcus. They have a unique, innovative, I give Dave Rangoon credit. Last year, I thought he should have been fired for coming up with, I assume it's him, he's the offensive coordinator, approach with 5 wide receivers. But it's kind of an interesting twist on a read option where the defensive end on the quarterback's right, if he crashes on the pass rush, Mariota can actually run a sweep around that side. He did that when the organization played the Jaguars, picked up about 18 yards on a first down. It was a very exciting play. And they opened up with a bootleg. The one problem that I see for the Falcons that I'm fairly confident is going to rear its head in the Saints game, and it's not going to be smoothed out for the rest of the year because it will require a significant redesign and retraining of their playbook, is that their receiver depth in terms of how many yards they go down is still off sync with the amount of time their offensive line gives them a block. And so what happens? What does that mean, Zennie? It means the pocket collapses real fast. And so when you're going up against the defense that has stars like Cam Jordan and great speedy linebackers, as well as arguably the best secondary in the National Football League, it's going to be pretty tough. And it's going to be pretty tough. The Saints can almost get away with saying, we'll focus on stopping the run, blitz, which I think they're going to do more of this time than they did last year, and basically rattle Mariota by sending the message that, hey, we're ready for your bootlegs. We're as fast as you are. And Dave Rangoon, your offensive coordinator, nothing he calls is going to work against us. Now, the Falcons' only possible way of winning this contest is to decide they're going to run so much that the Saints almost forget about the pass and the Falcons go to a play action and catch them off guard. Now, for that to even be effective, the Falcons would have to succeed in doing the one thing I don't think they're going to do at all, keeping the Saints' offense off the field. The Saints' offense is dramatically different this time around. It is a combination of Bill Walsh ball control and Mike Martz passing. Note I didn't say Bruce Arians. It features spread formations, a great deal greater than the Saints did even last year and the year before. They have tremendous receivers, and I hate the term pieces. I don't know, whoever started that, I want to choke them. Stop using that term. They're people. They're people. So anyway, Jameis Winston has the luxury of throwing the Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave, and can't guard Mike. And did I mention that he's got Adam Kaufman and Taysom Hill at tight end? Oh, did I mention?
You mean Adam Kaufman?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And did I mention that? Because they called him back, and did I mention that Alvin Kamara, they throw to out of the backfield rather liberally? So
I should ask, what's the whole situation going on with the legal situation with him? Because I haven't really been kept
cleared.
Oh, cleared? Oh, thank God.
Yeah. So anyway, this organization is poised to set records for completion percentage for the team. You heard it here first. For passing yardage, you heard it here first. And for touchdowns, you heard it here first. They're going to be very, very exciting to watch. I'm not concerned about left tackle because I believe they're going to throw short a lot. They've got some really nifty I call them zero step plays that are slant passes that we've been working on in practice. And they're just going to be all around exciting to watch. And the Falcons' defense is not the stronger unit that Dean Pease wants us to believe it's going to be. And for one reason, it's not so much they don't have the monsters, it's how Dean's plays them. And he plays a loose style of defense that really doesn't decide, well, I'm going to stop the run or the pass. And if I'm going to really have monsters, I want to have defensive linemen that are, 6'5" and up. His personnel doesn't match up with what he wants to achieve, in my opinion. And so they were consistently mowed down in preseason. And I'm not talking about anything other than technique, which is bad, combined with physicality by design of the players they pick, which is out of line with what they want to achieve. That's just my opinion. But that's why we're here, right?
Yeah, of course.
I think it's going to be a good game for the first half, and then the Saints will pull away and win. I say that if it sounds like I have an asterisk in my voice, it's because with Mariota and his capabilities, you always have to watch out for that nifty little trick play that can give the defense problems. But we're going up against the Saints defense, which I think is going to clock in as at number one in the league when all is said and done. I think this is a Super Bowl champion we're about to watch unfold. So there we go. Now, let's go to back to our nifty board there. And we've got the Browns.
Oh, this is a good one. It's the Baker Mayfield revenge game. 1 year after week one when the Panthers were against the Jets. How fitting is that? How fitting is that? Back-to-back years, the starting quarterback has a revenge game against his old team. And
are you telling me he's going to blank up these guys?
Oh, no, I'm just saying it's a revenge game in terms of just on paper. I mean, with Ryan Fitzpatrick, he had 50 revenge games every year, it seemed like, because he was on so many teams. Let's be real here. The Browns are a better team, coaching-wise, organization-wise, than the Jets by far. It doesn't matter if you have Sam Darnold as your quarterback or if you have Baker Mayfield as your quarterback. I would still see the Browns as the better team. And even without Deshaun Watson, Jacoby Brissett is a really, really, really good backup. And with their roster in play, and considering I still have some questions about the Panthers offense, I actually see the Browns pulling up the upset here. That's right, I do. I see the Browns actually pulling out with a victory.
Ooh. Yeah, what say you, Mr. Bill?
Yeah, well, it feels funny talking about anybody being, an upset facing the Jets. First of all, it just feels strange hearing that phrase.
No, upset against the Panthers.
Panthers, yeah. Well, you kept mentioning the Jets, but so the thing about the Panthers is I am not sold on a couple of things about the team. I do think that Baker Mayfield will actually have a good game, though.
I think so too.
And I like some of their some of the things they can do on offense. As was mentioned earlier, I'm not sold on their coaching staff as of yet, at least. And of course, it's a young bunch of coaches, many of whom with very little NFL experience. So that may explain some of the hiccups last year. But they'll need Christian McCaffrey to obviously stay healthy, but to be ultra productive. And if he's not ultra productive, not just this week, for the whole season, they will struggle mightily because so much of their offense is tied up in mismatches, right? In getting him in space versus people who can't stay with him. I'm not sold on their down the field passing, though that may change. I mean, maybe Baker Mayfield will inject that with some juice because that was not something they did well last year. And their running attack was extremely anemic previously, and that will need to improve. They have good depth, right? In that they do have Travis Etienne and Michael Carter, who are both talented and very young. But I don't know if they'll come. I keep thinking about the Jets. Thanks, Denny. But they have both McCaffrey and Chuba Hubbard. And Hubbard did a decent job of sort of holding the fort, even though they became much less dynamic when he had to fill in. But to me, it's really about the Browns defense. The Browns defense is going to, I think, hold Christian McCaffrey enough in check and harass Mayfield enough, who they clearly know his strengths and weaknesses fairly well. I think he'll still go for about 270 to 280, somewhere in that, yards passing. I think he'll probably have a couple of touchdowns, but he'll also have maybe a turnover or two. May not be, perhaps not an interception. You might have, once again, another guy that sometimes tries to make too much happen, right? A guy that doesn't always realize when a play is over. If you get a little more of that Drew Brees, those guys just realize, okay, this play's dead, and just hit somebody in the ankle with this. If you would get a little more of that in his game, I think he'd be a much more effective player, but he really does try to make things happen even when they aren't there. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a close game, but I think it's probably about a 23 to 28 kind of game. And I think, the Browns eke out a victory. And Jacoby Brissett does just enough. I think he's a guy that's going to go for about 183 yards passing, 1 passing touchdown, 0 turnovers, and, about as exciting as dishwater. But just like dishwater, right? If you use dishwater correctly, it does the job.
Yeah, I mean, like you say that dishwater, but yeah, like some dishwater has been in use for many years, and there's a reason why people still use it. It's because it's effective.
Now, I tell you, the one secret ingredient that I believe gives the Browns the upper hand over the Panthers is Nick Chubb.
Easily.
Well, that's not a secret, Zennie.
It's a secret. They're doing a really awful job of keeping it hidden.
Well, I didn't hear either one of you two knuckleheads talking about him. So
that's a reason why they can win a game where they score 28 points and the quarterback doesn't pass for 200 yards. I mean, where do you think the other yards come from?
Chubb, of course.
Like I said, you guys had your chance. This is mine, right?
I'm just saying, secret is the term I would use, but yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, y'all didn't mention him, so I'm taking advantage of the fact that you didn't mention him. Anyway, I'm really interested to see the Panthers defense and Phil Snow, the defensive coordinator, what he does to stop Nick Chubb, or even if he emphasizes Nick Chubb as a player to be stopped in the game plan. That's what I'm really looking forward to seeing, because the Panthers have this annoying habit of coming out with these really interesting game plans at the first start of the season and then tailing off toward the end, right? So what's he going to pull out of his hat this time to stop them? The question is it going to work? I would happen to think absolutely my opinion is no, I don't believe so. In fact, for some particular reason, now I'm just going on with feeling, not a desire or wish fulfillment, I think the Browns are going to blow out the Panthers. I really see that coming. This is a crystal ball, all right? Again, I don't have a dislike for the Panthers. Quite the contrary. I know one of their defensive coaches quite well. Have a cell number. But I have a great deal of affinity for their owner, Dave Tepper. So it's not personal at all. It's nothing like that. I just don't see the Panthers coming out of this with a win. I see this being a homecoming of sorts for the Browns, an interesting introduction to a defense that should be more powerful than it was expected to be last year, but it didn't meet the mark. This year it will. I'm quite excited to see what the Browns come out of, and I don't think it's going to be to the Panthers' benefit. So, moving along. Going back to our board. First of all, before we go to the board, hey, Joseph Bensman says, look out for James Cook, Bills running back. Aha. 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 And then he says, definitely want to see if Drake London, lives up to his promise. Hope Michael Thomas is back to 100% yet this year.
Who doesn't hope that? Like, listen, if the Saints want to be, I still think the Saints are going to be a really good team, but I'm just hoping that Michael Thomas is going to be healthy, because when he was healthy, he was one of the most exciting players in the game, easily.
Yeah, and so Joseph says maybe Jimmy G next year, talking about the Falcons. That's interesting. Well, that's interesting.
I wanted Garoppolo to go to the Panthers, honestly.
Yeah, that's interesting. Dave Compton says the Rams game will show how good the team is. Talking about the Rams. Excuse me, I'm not reading that correctly. The Rams game, David Wright, will show how good the team is going to be, and if they return to the Super Bowl. I quite agree.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Joseph Binsma says, I'm surprised Odell Beckham still isn't signed. Is he hurt? Bill, you know anything about that?
He's not healthy. But the real reason he isn't signed is because teams want to see what they have with younger players. And then it'll either a combination of injury or ineffectiveness. And a team that is a contender will make room for him, just like, last year, right? I mean, you have to look far to find an example. So when Woods goes down with an injury, a contending team said, we need to have at least one other player to put with Kupp who's having literally a historic season. They don't quite have that situation with the Rams right now, which is why they didn't bring him back. And of course, they have to keep churning because of the way they set their team up in terms of relation to the salary cap. They always have to lose a couple of players each year. But because Les Snead and his evaluation staff are great at working the last rounds of the draft and even the undrafted free agent pool, they're able to get away with it. Teams that aren't that good can't get away with it. But he'll land somewhere when a contender loses somebody due to injury. He'll be healthy by probably about week 4.
And then he says, people are high on Chris Olave, the Ohio State wide receiver that's now the Saints wide receiver. Yeah, they are. And I believe, and I really do hope again, but yeah, of course, when they play with Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry on the field in that trips formation, that's going to be one of the most exciting pairings or groupings, I think, more appropriately, this year. Chris Olave, if you've ever seen his highlights, is just, I think, a more dynamic receiver than people give the Saints credit for in picking up. What do you think, Bill?
Well, I mean, I've seen more than just his highlights. I've watched about 14 or so of his games, at least once, and probably 6 or 7 of them twice. What stood out to me was his body control, his ability to accelerate and then change direction without losing angular momentum. Like, he can change direction very quickly and not stay at close to top speed. He tracks the ball extremely well. And I know that some people had Garrett Wilson over him. I did not. I think that Garrett Wilson is a very good player as well. But despite the fact that Olave is technically speaking smaller and just a tiny bit smaller, he's actually stronger. He's the stronger of the two. And people don't think of strength as being very important until you realize balance and strength are correlated. If I jump up for a football and you collide with me, we're both jumping up for football, and I want to land and then be able to right myself and then pick up extra yardage, we talk about contact balance and all those things, but that's really just a function of strength. It's a combination of your proprioceptive sense that tells you where you are in space, and then you having enough core and lower body strength to when your body is right, the upper part of your body is leaning in one direction to pull it back, right? And then be able to reaccelerate.
Yeah.
And I think Garrett Wilson's going to struggle to do that a little bit more than Olave because though he's technically speaking slightly bigger, he's actually thinner. He does not, not as much of his muscle is in the lower part of his body, butt, thighs, whatever Olave's got more strength there. I think he's going to have a tremendous season. I will not be surprised one iota if he leads all rookie receivers in receptions and touchdowns.
Ooh. Now, Joseph then says he likes Baker Mayfield's chances at revenge, or he liked them until he opened his mouth. Browns win.
There's no way you can be Baker Mayfield and not open your mouth. Like that's
listen, if you don't open your mouth as Baker Mayfield, you are not actually Baker Mayfield. That's just a fact. You're like, I don't know. I guess you can say. I'm trying to think. No, I was thinking of a play on words with the word terms.
It's actually an appropriate comparison, Vinny, because you couldn't say anything. So whoever you're thinking about couldn't say anything either, right?
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Moving forward, Bisman says my Giants could use OBJ right now. Galladay needs to step up big time this year. And then Dave Compton says, so are you saying the Browns will finish at the top of their division this season? No, I'm not saying that. Okay.
Just because you win the first game of the season doesn't mean you're going to win the division.
I think it's going to be the Steelers. In fact, what do you guys think? I think it's the Steelers.
I have the Ravens win the division, actually.
What say you, Bill?
Yeah, I would love for the Steelers, as a Steelers fan, to win the division, but there's some big holes on that team right now. That offensive line is an utter mess, and it helps to have a more mobile quarterback, but I've watched a lot of Mitchell Trubisky from when he was battling, right, to try to win the job at Carolina with, frankly, not the world's greatest quarterback. No offense to Marquise Williams, but if Marquise Williams is beating you out in college, I have to wonder. So I would love for him to have this amazing season. Of course, the only question is how long can he hold off Kenny Pickett, who's been really –
You took the words right out of my mouth because I expect Kenny Pickett to be starting by the middle of the season.
And you're probably right. But by the middle of the season, the team could be like 2-7. So
or they could be 7-2.
Well, if they're 7-2, they're not pulling Trubisky.
That's
unless he gets injured.
Yeah, right. Unless he gets injured, right?
Anyone on like the Eagles, or if the Saints have anyone from Bounty Gate, maybe this could be their chance. I mean, it's around that same time. I mean, the Bengals they're against in Week 11, maybe that could be the opportunity. I don't know.
Yeah. Moving along. Yeah. I just threw that in there for half comic relief. The Niners are visiting the Chicago Bears in what I believe is going to be an incredible trap game before I open my trap, appropriately termed. What say you, Vinny? The Bears.
This game, it has, like you said, this is a game that has the making of a trap game. You have Matt Eberflus in his first game as the Chicago Bears head coach. You have Justin Fields planted as your starter. You don't have Andy Dalton looming on your shoulder anymore. You are also a team that doesn't know where they're going to go. Are they going to be better? Or could they potentially be worse? This is a very prove-it game for them. Meanwhile, the 49ers, this is also a prove-it game, in particular for Trey Lance. As everyone knows, Trey Lance will be the starter week 1. Jimmy Garoppolo will be sitting on the bench until maybe someone decides to trade for him. So the Niners coming off of an NFC Championship game loss, a lot of people naturally are going to want to see and think that the Niners are going to win. But I do think there could be a chance here, especially on week 1. I don't know why. I just have a feeling that the Bears might find a way to pull this out. I don't know why. It's just a hunch feeling I have. But just by a hair, maybe like a field goal or two, the Bears will win in an upset fashion at home.
Bill.
I don't think the Bears will win. I do think the Bears will look better than they've looked in a while. And I think that – I don't know what the line is, but I have a feeling that the Niners don't cover. I think that two things will become apparent, that Trey Lance is incredibly talented and that Trey Lance is incredibly raw. I think that those two things will both be put on display. I think that he will have –
that last part again, you said incredibly raw?
I think he's going to have 2 or 3 plays, just draw-dropping plays, where he makes, an amazing throw, like, where he's rolling one way, twist his trunk, whips the ball back 37 yards across his body for an amazing, drills a guy in the chest for a touchdown. He's going to have a great run where he makes 3 or 4 guys miss, trucks a defensive back for a touchdown, and he's going to throw 2, oh my God, what are you doing, interceptions. I think that he's going to be a wild ride. And I still think the 49ers win, but there's going to be some, heart palpitations for the coaching staff at times.
So are you telling me that they're going to pull him for Jimmy G at some point during the game?
I think not, no. For 2 reasons. One is if you do that, you destroy him, right? That's the first reason you don't do that. You can't do that in the first game of the season. You can't sacrifice a guy you traded up for to draft.
That would be hilarious if they were to do that, though, but I can't see it happening.
It would be incredibly destructive also. So that's one reason it won't happen.
Hilarious and just the comedy of errors.
All right. I think the Bears are going to spank the 49ers, and here's why. I'm very impressed with the amount and degree of improvement that Justin Fields has shown because of the way Matt Eberflus. Well, I don't know his offensive coordinator's name.
I do. Luke Getsy, who the Georgia Tech legend, Luke Getsy, baby.
Luke.
Oh, nice.
Now, I'm really impressed with the system that he installed, which relies on not risking short passing, not putting Fields in positions where the pocket is collapsing, and a better offensive line technique than the previous year, to the point where they're so confident. This is how confident the Bears are in their offensive line technique. They brought in the maligned in Las Vegas, Alex Leatherwood, who I think was badly coached. I said so in one of my videos, okay? And gave him a $14 million guaranteed contract. And have him doing one thing in practice he never did as a Raider. You know what that is? A tackle. Oh, this dude is fast, okay? He's going to come out. He's going to mow down linebackers, crush cornerbacks, and decapitate safeties. He's going to let people know why he was the Outland Trophy winner at Alabama and why the Raiders made a massive mistake in getting rid of him and listening to all the social media chatter from people who had no idea what they were talking about.
Even though it was a figure of speech, the idea of an offensive lineman decapitating a safety is mesmerizing, to say the least.
It's not a figure of speech. Perhaps we're going to see some people actually killed on the field. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah,
that might be the key to victory for the Bears if he actually murders a few people.
Yeah, it would get some eyeballs raised up. That's for sure.
Because, to allow me to continue, they will be improved. They are truly the monsters of the Midway, because that's what monsters do. All right? Now, regarding the 49ers, I have never been sold with the Niners' offensive structure. I asked a question about the West Coast offensive, Bill Walsh offense, as I prefer to call it, because that's really what it is, of Kyle Shanahan the first year he was hired. And I'll cut to the chase. Folks, the Niners' attention to timing is not what it should be. And that's why Trey Lance has his problems. That's why they don't have a consistent quarterback play, which is very un-Bill Walsh-like, for an organization that, well, hired Bill Walsh and was famous because he brought them success. I am really concerned that, and I tried to allude this to the owner, Jed York, or the owner's son, Jed York, at the NFL Spring League meeting, but I didn't feel like pushing the pedal to the metal too much. But this is going to be a year when Jed turns around and says, hey, what did I really do here? Did I just bring in people to make me comfortable as opposed to bringing in true winners? And am I straying away from the blueprint that was set for us several decades ago, which I think is the case? All right. So that's my prediction. I'm sticking to it, even if the Niners happen to win, because it's a long haul. But I believe the Bears are going to win this one. And I think a lot of people are going to be shocked by how well Justin Fields does. Moving on.
Justin Fields' improvement. That I agree. I just, they've got some, once again, other teams, some real holes they got to fill. That Ryan Poles is sort of gutting that team to rehab it, sort of like gutting a house that you find that has a lot of water damage to rehab it. So that roster's pretty depleted right now, Zen. But hey, maybe they find a way to pull out a victory.
Steelers versus the Bengals, the almost Super Bowl champions. Vinny, what are you looking like? What are you looking at here? What do you think?
My main focus is going to be on how well that offensive line for the Bengals is going to do. And I think with the addition of La'el Collins, it's going to be a massive improvement. And with that's going to be the main question, how that Steelers defense is going to be against that Bengals offensive line. And I think, considering the questions that the Steelers offensive line has, I actually think that the Bengals defense might actually be the difference maker in this game. And that's why I believe the Bengals, coming off of a Super Bowl appearance, will get their first win of the season in Week 1.
Oh, by the way, Joseph Binsman said, hey, Trey will surprise you all. The Bears will not win. I guarantee it. Uh-oh. Them's fighting words.
Oh, no.
before that, he writes, "Now don't say anything bad about my Niners." Oh,
I thought he was a Raiders fan.
It'd be easier to buy you as a Niners fan if you at least spell Trey Lance's name right. It's Trey, but okay.
And he says, "It's been a long shot, but I feel it's time for the Browns to step up." Okay, now going back to this matter of talking about the mighty Bengals against the Steelers. Bill, what do you think?
Well, I think people are concerned about the wrong offensive line. The Steelers' offensive line is, at best, a work in progress, and at worst, maybe a bottom 5 or 6 offensive line. They have not a single guy you can point to say, man, that guy is an all-pro type. Not a single one of them, right? And it's been a long time since the Steelers have been in that situation where they can't point to anybody and say that guy is definitively better than the average at his position. So they're going to, frankly, need to have a game plan that gets the ball out quickly when they are passing it, and they're going to try to run the rock a lot. And if they have success in the passing game, as was mentioned earlier, it'll probably come off play action. So of their offensive linemen, the one I probably trust the most is Chukwuma Okorafor, and he's their right tackle. And he's still not, like top 5 or maybe even top 10. He's probably maybe top 12 to 14. Kevin Dotson, right, is a guy who's developed and was originally a reserve and now has turned to a starter. He's not terrible. Dan Moore Jr. is their starting left tackle. I don't know how else to put this. That terrifies me beyond words. They have Mason Cole, who came over from Minnesota at center. He's a solid professional, but he won't be ever mistaken for Marquise Pouncey. Jesse Davis is the swing tackle. J.C. Hasenauer will be backing up Cole, and Kendrick Green will probably be a guy who's backing up at both the guard positions as well as Trent Scott. That is not a good offensive line. I don't know how else to put it.
All right. Here's why I assert that the Steelers will beat the Bengals. Because the Steelers' defense is young, flies to the ball, blitz, is effective at doing so. But then we look at offense. They have an exciting group of running backs, a developing group of receivers, a bit on the green side, but still. But the Steelers have an intangible that must be considered for every contest they go into, and that's Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin is a fantastic field general of a coach.
Sure.
Easily. No question.
Yep.
And this is a major division game. And he is going to craft a game plan that's going to overcome weaknesses of the organization, fire up his squad, and engineer a win. I really believe that. I strongly, powerfully believe that against the Bengals. I think the Bengals' success last year was a product more of anything of them being overlooked than any use in analytics or the right gelling of talent at the right time, which has to be considered for what happened with the Bengals last year. But guess what now? We got a book on the Bengals, okay? And unless, and this will be interesting to see if they do significantly change up that book, I think they're going to go back to the less than effective organization they were the year before. Not that bad.
Well, the book on the Bengals is they have the best group of wide receivers in football. So if you can either, through getting there in terms of pressuring Burrow, who is very good under pressure for being so young. He's one of the best at handling pressure at that age I've seen ever, and I've watched a lot of football. So he handles pressure really well. But if you're able to pressure him enough, you can maybe force him into a mistake. And you need to have an elite type secondary. And that, once again, is my other issue, is our secondary. I mean, Terrell Edmonds is a freak athlete, and Miles Killebrew is an absolute guided missile, but neither one's great in coverage. Minkah Fitzpatrick is great in coverage. In fact, he's the guy that's expected to sort of clean up, a host of possible problems in the back end of that defense. Levi Wallace is a sort of underrated but smart signing coming over from the Bills. James Pierre is one of those guys going to be a backup. Trey Norwood's also a good backup. Ahkello Witherspoon is the other big signee. Whew, that makes me nervous. I think he's going to get picked on a lot. I don't like him matching up against T. Higgins. Oh, that just I'm getting nauseous at the thought of it. So they better get the pass rush better get there, because if Ahkello Witherspoon's expected to shut down Higgins or Boyd or, God forbid, not Jamar Chase, I mean, you don't want that.
Nope.
I contend that the Steelers have a book on the Bengals, and they'll be more effective this year at stopping them, and they will do so in the first game of the year. Now, moving along, lest I say more than I want to say, because I don't. The Eagles come to the Lions, and I'm going to withhold my opinion about this until it's my time to speak. Vinny, what do you think about this interesting contest?
You're correct. I also agree it's a very interesting contest. The Lions, of course, being the stars of Hard Knocks this season, despite the fact that it took them until week 12, week 13 to win a game, they fought until the very end almost for every single one of their games. And to me, that shows the leadership of Dan Campbell as the head coaching position. Not only that, I thought they had a pretty decent draft, and I also think that they will be a better team this year. Now, does that mean I think they're going to beat the Philadelphia Eagles? No, because I actually see the Eagles winning the division this year, and I think that's going to start with this game where I actually see the Eagles beating the Lions by at least 10 points. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a much better season.
Yeah, I think the Eagles they're sort of one of my stealth teams to make actually a deep run in the playoffs. I think they're wildly undervalued and underrated by most people. I think that they have a very good coaching staff. I think the talent, there's some holes, there's some gaps they need to fill. They don't have one truly elite pass rusher, but they get a decent amount of pressure from a variety of different people. Fletcher Cox is still a very good player, though he's no longer an elite player, but he's nearing the end of a borderline Hall of Fame career. But he and Kelsey are going to ride off probably in the sunset into this season together, and fittingly enough. I still think this team's improvement is going to be tied up in two things. One is being more consistently able to complete passes when they have to, right? In must-pass situations, 3rd and 8, right? Can you now complete that pass more than half of the time? And I think that will happen this year. 2, I think their running attack, which was terrible last year, will be better this year. And I think that though they will still be occasionally torched on defense, I think their defense will be a little bit better across the board. I think that the Lions are going to be one of the most improved teams in the league, but not quite enough to win this game. I think that they're probably a 5 or 6 win, maybe even 7 win team, but they're a year away. I really trust Brad Holmes. I love what he's doing. I think they've done a great job of getting rid of, frankly, some players who are paying too much money to and were a bad fit for the organization and what they're trying to accomplish.
Tell them who Holmes is.
Oh, well, Brad Holmes is one of the best young GMs and an HBCU graduate. I've scouted Brad Holmes. He was a defensive tackle in college. Most of the GMs, if they played, I saw play in college. I saw Jason Light when he was at Nebraska. If they played, I saw. I saw Mike Tomlin when he was at Denby High School, and then later when he was at William & Mary, where I was really going to watch Darren Sharper, but I did notice that mouthy little slot receiver that later went on to become this terrific coach.
Is Darren Sharper still in jail?
Yes,
He's
going to be there until 2036, I think.
Yeah. And yes, so the point is that I think that the Eagles are going to be one of the better teams. I think they're probably an 11-win team this year. 10 maybe, but I think you have a shot at 11. And I think that, like I said, both teams are going to be better this year than they were last year. Dramatically better in the case of the Lions, but they're still, I think, one more year away.
I see the Eagles blowing out the Lions, even though I'm not a fan of the Eagles and the way their offense is coached, because they're very undisciplined in terms of their route running, in terms of their line blocking, and in terms of their overall design. They asked Jalen, their quarterback, to roll out, but not an efficient way to roll to a point, for example.
Right.
I'm really concerned that Nick Sirianni is the wrong hire for that organization at the time. I'm more comfortable with him as a position coach than a head coach. However, that said, we came out last year with some interesting approaches, but there weren't enough plays offensively, for example, to have a variation, to have an answer when the defense counters what they do. So I'm not sold on him, but I am sold on the fact, as I see it, that the Lions simply are not well coached. And anybody that has to yell their way to the top, yell their way to be effective, as opposed to analytically form a plan, then have a plan for growth, and then execute the plan, a la Tom Landry, is very much a concern to me. And I have to say that for Dan Campbell. I thought Dan Campbell was not the right hire for the Lions when they did it. I have seen nothing to counter my initial opinion, and I don't expect to see anything this year either. He's going to be like Matt Patricia. Well, maybe, worse, if that's possible.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No need to apologize.
It's like you can imagine. It's almost like Stephen Strange, right? Maybe in another universe, maybe an alternative universe, there's this place where the Dan Campbells of the world go undefeated because they can yell and they're big. But that's not this universe. It doesn't work like that. So he seems like a very likable guy. This is not a personal remark. The impetus for the reason I come off this way is because of the gigantic number of extremely talented black assistant coaches in the NFL who are not getting their due, and yet guys like Dan Campbell get their due because some owner likes them. And I'm this whole idea, I'm not going to go on a rant about this, but I will say it. The idea that a person gets hired because the other person likes them is a very sideways way of explaining that, racism is okay. Because flip it around. So why don't you like this other guy? Well, because he's black. There's a reason you don't like him that you're not willing to say, okay?
I just hope someone's hires Eric Bieniemy already. He deserves to get hired.
Yeah. And yet there are all these lies made up about coaches like Bieniemy in his past, and yet, hey, Mike Vrabel got arrested not once for DUI, not twice, but 3 times.
Three times.
3 times. So and there's nothing personal against Mike Vrabel, who I really praise for working with Malik Willis, who I think is going to be one of the future stars of the league very quickly. But coming back to Dan Campbell, if I'm wrong, I'm more interested in why I would be wrong about Dan Campbell and the Lions this year. I'd like to, because I remember talking with Lions, not the Lions, but the Bengals executive vice president, Katie. And Katie, you think I've known Katie this long, I would have remembered her. Like her dad is Paul Brown Jr., okay? But Katie and I, Blackburn, Katie and I go back to, I met Katie November 3rd, 1999, that November 1st, 1999 was my first NFL owners meeting, and I shared a table with her and a younger Dean Spanos. And we all hit it off. And the last time I saw her was actually here in Atlanta, and I just candidly told her, I said, I'm really happy you all went to the AFC Championship game, because the year before that, I went to the Raiders game. You guys came and your offensive coordinator stuck up the place. And now you're using analytics and your approach is much better. The point that I'm making is that analytics makes a difference, and you're using it in offensive planning makes a huge difference. If that story is there to be talking about the Lions, then I was wrong about Dan Campbell, and I'm happy to say I'm wrong. But I have a feeling I'm not.
Mhm.
So, yeah, moving along.
What's the next game?
The next game, the Colts.
Dartmouth hockey legend Catherine Blackburn. While you're on the subject,
Say again, please, Bill. Bill.
Women's hockey legend Catherine Blackburn.
I didn't know that.
I
About
didn't know that either.
Oh yeah, she was a center forward. Stick, quick stick. Not a big scorer, but a great passer.
Nice.
For who?
I just said Dartmouth.
I didn't hear that part.
Oh, okay.
How many assists did she have?
Like in her whole career?
Like in her best season or something?
On her best season. Probably about 18, but they play a shorter season. They don't play. I mean, it's Ivy League.
Wait. How did you find out about this? You were trying to date her or something?
No, I just follow the league, man. Come on. And
I follow
the
league too, but I don't know that information. Come on.
I'm a scout. If you're an athlete, I know about you. I'm a scout.
I'm gonna have to call you Pierre.
Wait. So if that's the case, then you tell me how Sandra Morgan got her job with the Raiders.
That's a fun question and a fun-ish answer. So the Raiders are an interesting organization because they really do believe that football is family. Like you hear that term thrown around, but they literally like build their organization sometimes like very much like a family is built, and sometimes to their advantage and sometimes to their detriment because sometimes in your family you have that uncle who maybe the elevator doesn't go all the way to the top anymore, but you kind of sit him over here to the side when holidays roll around. But for a long time, the Raiders would still let that uncle drive. You know what I'm saying? Like they'd let him do things that were a little too important for that uncle to be doing. She had known, oh gosh, which one of the members of, think about that. But it was another one of those little family connection deals or like family. God, what was the?
He was an assistant who was a former player.
Right. I'm trying to remember which.
And whose name just flew out of my head, which happens. Is that a senior moment? Is that what that's called?
Yes, that is exactly what it is, my friend. It's a senior moment.
What the heck with y'all.
and while we're at it, shout out to our friend of the show, Amy Trask, who was a great trailblazer, and we've talked about many times.
Also semifinalist for the Hall of Fame this year. Congratulations again for that. I should also say this, please. Let's hope maybe in a couple of years they expand that number from 1 coach contributor to 2, so that way you get a better chance. And not only that, maybe Wilfred Winkenbach could also get a chance too. Another Raider.
Texans and Colts. Who wins, Vinny?
Colts. Definitely the Colts here. The reason why is because I think the Colts had a really, really good off season, bringing Stephon Gilmore, and of course, how can I forget? You bring him in to the Colts organization. This is actually a signed autograph, by the way.
Matt.
Yes, that you bring him in to a team that can actually block and a team that could actually run, and you're with a team that actually has a good defense. Add that with a decent roster last year. This is a team I definitely see winning their division easily. Even with the Titans, I still see the Colts winning the division because of that guy right there. Well, not right here, but you get the idea. And I see them winning game against the Texans. Yeah.
Sorry, Bill. Do you want to add some more, Bill?
I like the Colts defense a lot.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Vinny. Did you want to add some more? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Sorry. No. I mean, obviously, Matt Ryan's not here in this room, actually, but yeah, my picture is.
If he were, that would be a great scoop. And you just pan your camera slightly, and there he is. Right, another Philadelphia kid, right? Good to see him succeeding.
Mr. Kyle, what say you?
Yeah, I really think the Colts defense has a chance to be, I'll say at least a top 5 defense. And I won't be shocked if they're even better than that. But I think they're going to be a top 5 defense. I think they're going to really they're going to be difficult to score on. I think only the very best of offenses are going to be able to really do much against them. And so if you're not talking about an elite offense, that offense is going to struggle against this team. And they have a devastatingly effective running attack, and they'll pass the ball well enough, which is, I guess, all they're really trying to do, right? Because they're I mean, you keep talking about ball control. I mean, that's what this team's going to be, right? They're going to be a true ball control offense. And Matt Ryan, because he reads defenses so well and gets the ball out of his hands so quickly, is perfect for what they want to do. He's perfect for what they want to do. They may not have a lot of big explosive plays where you throw the ball 60 yards in the air. That's not what they want to do, frankly. So it doesn't matter that that's something they probably won't be great at. I really like what Michael Pittman Jr. is about to become, and they have sort of a bargain basement version of him. Watch out for this guy to slowly but surely develop as the season goes along, and probably even more next season. Michael Strahan, and it is pronounced Strahan, who is a person born in the Bahamas, came to America to run track and got introduced to football. He was terrific at Charleston and was a man amongst boys there. Also was a conference champion in the 100 and 200 meters, despite the fact that he's almost 6'5". So you rarely see sprinters his height who are as good as he was. There's a lot of talent there. Also, watch out for their tight end. I mean, they clearly know what to do with tight ends, and Matt Ryan loves tight ends. So if you're a fantasy player, watch out for the Colts tight ends to be really productive this year as a group. So, yeah, I like them to win this game. It'll be, once again, fairly tight. I don't think the Colts are going to blow people out. They're not built to blow people out, but I think they're going to be a team that sort of inexorably wears on you and then pulls away a little bit towards the end.
The Texans will blow out the Colts. This is going to be a game where people will be shocked over the masterful game plan installed by Pep Hamilton and ran by Davis Mills, the former Stanford quarterback paired with the former Stanford offensive coordinator, and stopped by the excellent swarming defense and precision coaching of Lovie Smith. Everyone is taking the Texans for granted, and I'm going to tell you right now, the world will regret doing so. Texans 30, Texans 30, Colts 20. There you go.
Well, that's not a blowout, but okay, it's a convincing win. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. I think the Texans will be greatly improved. I worry a little bit about how they'll hold up. I mean, maybe they will. Maybe they'll shut down the running attack. They had certainly some times last year where, and obviously the way this team is built on defense, they're built not to give up big plays.
But that was a different coach, though.
Oh, I know that. I know. I'm very, but the team is still largely. We have some pieces they've moved around, but it's largely the same players. Yeah. And if a guy is, if Quentin Nelson is throwing you, out of the way, admittedly you can improve technique-wise and things like that. But Quentin Nelson is still Quentin Nelson. He is still a guy that consistently moves people. And if you're consistently moving people, no matter what is happening with the coaching, you're going to get yards in the run game. I mean, at some point, it is a physical game. And the person who can physically dominate you is going to be effective, right? Quentin Nelson physically dominates people week in and week out. And that's one reason that, and of course, Taylor is very talented as well. But when you combine the fact that they have some physically dominant people on that offensive line, combined with, I think the most talented running back in football in Jonathan Taylor, they're going to get their yards in the run game. So I'm not quite ready to, like I said, to go where you've gone. But I do believe they'll be much improved. I think that
to go where no man has gone before.
Well, I think you're being bold, and I love that. I'm just not built that way, I guess.
Boldly go where no man has gone before. No one.
I do right. Yeah, exactly.
Listen, you got to give him credit for going bold, because if you don't go bold, for throwing. It's good to have very bold predictions, because
it's especially early in the season, because people have time to hopefully forget. But the thing that I learned when I was a young officer candidate, and shout out to Sergeant Major Mackey, as he used to say, there are both Sergeant Major Mackey. He said that there are.
Was he Anthony Mackey?
I don't know. No,
Anthony Mackey. You're referring to the guy that plays Falcon, and Captain America now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I never knew his first name, so I can't confirm or deny. But it's not spelled. His last name wasn't spelled the same way. His last name was spelled just like John Mackey, the Hall of Fame tight end, not like Anthony Mackey spelled I-E. But as he said many times, there are bold soldiers and there are old soldiers, but there are no old bold soldiers. So I very much admire how bold you are, Zennie. But I do believe they'll be a greatly improved team. I think that they're going to be a team that maybe even is a game over 500. I mean, they'll be in there in that 7.
Thank you for saying I'm not old.
What was that you said?
Thank you for saying I'm not old.
Yeah, no, you're only as old as you feel. So who's next on the menu?
We are looking at the Ravens.
That sounds pretty tasty.
Going to the Jets.
Ooh.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Old again, City would call for another amazing upset.
Well, I will make the argument and say, this is actually a Joe Flacco revenge game.
There you go.
That's important to keep in mind. And so maybe he's going to have a whole big intention. I'm going to beat the Ravens. Come on. Yeah, listen, the Jets are a team that exists in the NFL. They play football. They wear jerseys and they wear helmets. And let's be real here, they're going to get absolutely destroyed and demolished and obliterated by the Ravens. I hate being that guy that's going to spoil it for people. I'm sorry. I'm from the future, and I can admit to you that the Ravens destroyed the Jets so badly. It's horrible. The Ravens are going to absolutely destroy the Jets. Does anyone else see any other outcome other than a Ravens victory?
I don't think anybody sees another outcome. I think the Jets will be a little more competitive this year. I think that their defense will be the secret to them being a little more improved. I think their offense will continue to be
the Jets' offense.
Yes, right. The Jets offense will continue to be the Jets' offense. I really like Elijah Moore, very talented wide receiver, and I think that if they can ever fix some things among their offensive line and really get set at quarterback, he will have a huge year if they can ever get that done. They have a talented group of young running backs, as I mentioned earlier, for some reason we were talking about a different team. But I really do like both Michael Carter as, I guess he's sort of a change of pace back, and Etienne will be the main guy. But both guys can catch the ball. Both guys have quickness, and Etienne has that kind of speed that can lead to big plays because he can just pull away from people in the open field.
Yep.
However, if you can't throw the football in the NFL, you can't win. And I will need to see something to convince me that this team can consistently complete passes when you have to pass. And their offensive line is, even with Becton, I wasn't completely sold on their line. And without Becton, I'm very concerned about that.
At least Dwayne Brown can get some more money.
Yes, Dwayne Brown gets some more money.
Is Jason Peters going to sign with the Cowboys? What's the holdup going on right now?
Well, if indeed he signs with them, and I'm sure that it's this negotiation ongoing, they're going to need to give him way more help than they were going to give Tyron Smith. So it still means that you're going to have to keep a tight end more. They'll do something because, I love Jason Peters, but he's clearly not. Who is the Jason Peters of 12 years ago, who was probably the best tackle in the game? He's now, a guy you're throwing out there, because you can fill out your roster, basically. He's 40 years old, and because he's a shorter tackle, he was getting by on pure athletic ability and technique too. But he had great, elite level athletic ability because former tight end at Arkansas, who converts to tackle, was an undrafted free agent, maybe up there with Rod Smith and a handful of others for one of the greatest undrafted free agents in the history of the game. But at this point in his career, he has great limitations on the number of snaps he can play, right? Just because, I'm sure he stayed in some semblance of shape, but he's 40 years old. He hasn't been on a team. So I'm sure he's been working and exercising, but not like you would be if you went through camp. So yeah, good luck.
Okay, I will say this, and I will make it absolutely clear. The Ravens are going to blow the Jets out of the building, period. Lamar Jackson will be at his absolute best. He'll produce one of those games that they talk about for the ages until, of course, he plays again. And the Jets will once again be considered the least of the East, not the beast, but the least of the East.
That's usually how it is over here. It was even worse is that the Giants and the Jets have had the exact same schedule since 2017, which is the worst in the NFL. So we in New York, we get to experience two different flavors. Do you want would you like would you like the remains of a Smurf corpse, or would you like the remains of Shrek's corpse? Which one would you prefer? Would you prefer, blue flavored Dookie or green flavored Dookie? The choice is yours. There's so many options and toppings. You want some bad coaching, bad organization, so many atrocious toppings to choose from this, ice cream parlor that no one should ever go to. But yeah, that's how it's basically been here. Both the Giants and the Jets are pretty awful, and I don't see them going any higher than fourth place in their division anytime soon.
Now we come to, first of all, if you want to join us like Dave Compton has done on occasion, have your camera on, not audio only. The link is right there, folks. Guest invite link. Copy, paste it into your favorite browser. Auto sync with your mic. Auto sync with your camera. Make sure you're using a Chrome or actually a Firefox browser. Also works well on your smartphone with Safari. Come on in. Have a take, as Jim Rohn used to say, do not suck. At any rate. But if you did, in our case, we would forgive you. Now, moving along. Big time moving along. Absolute big time moving along. Looking at these contests coming up. We have the Jaguars visiting the Washington Commanders. Another trap game to me looks like. Vinny, what do you think?
I believe that this is going to be a really interesting game. Interesting in the fact that, how's the Commanders' defense going to be still without Chase Young, and also when it comes to the offensive side of the ball, how's Carson Wentz going to do in his first game as a Commander? As for the Jaguars, Urban Junction is finally gone. There was a year that's one to forget. Now you have Doug Peterson, Super Bowl champion head coach, coming in. I want to see what he will do with this offense for the Jaguars. But, at the same time, I have a feeling that the Commanders, considering that there's more time to gel there with Ron Rivera for running the organization as the coach, I believe they will get the victory here in week 1 against the Jaguars. I have a Commanders victory here.
What say you, Mr. Carroll? Bill, I keep almost saying Bill Chakas.
Wrong guy.
It's been a while.
Have you talked to him lately?
I have not talked to him in a very long time. The last time I talked to him, he was getting involved with some like that border stuff or whatever. So I haven't talked to him in a very long time.
Oh, dear.
But yeah, I hope he's doing well. So, two things. I think this is a bit of a coming out party for Montez Sweat, who has previously been sort of in the shadow of Chase Young. And I think that this is, like I said, sort of his coming out party. I think he shows up with, a couple of pressures, probably 1.5 sacks. I think that you're going to see Cole Holcomb get an interception. I think that you're going to see an offensive line that's effective enough from Washington that their running game is going a little bit. And when is Carson Wentz at his best? Play action. So I think he'll get a couple of deep shots off play action as well.
Yep.
So watch out, right? Terry McLaurin, quiet as kept, is I think a top 8 wide receiver in the NFL. I think he has a good game. And now that he has Jahan Dotson paired with him, along with Curtis Samuel, that now gives you – there's no big guys in that group, right? They're all between, 5'11 and change and 5'10, so they're all about the same size. But every single one of them can run. Diami Brown and Cam Sims are backing them up, and Dax Milne's back there too. But that first three guys, all those guys are from mid 4.4s and faster, right? So that's a fast group. They all are really good route runners. There's not a bad route runner in that group. Samuel's a good route runner. Dotson's an elite level route runner. And Mclaren, once again, I think is a top, 5 or 6 guys a route runner. So they're going to be able to create space. And I just think that 1 or 2 of those guys are going to make a big enough play that it puts Jacksonville, because Jacksonville wants to run the football. But if they get a couple scores down, now it constricts some of the things you want to do as a running team. And eventually, once you start throwing the ball, especially against a team that's really good I think it'll still be pretty good at pressuring the passer. Eventually, you might pressure them into a mistake or a tip ball that leads to an interception. So, yeah, I think it's a fairly close game. I would say this is probably about a 24-20 kind of game, but I'm going to give the slight edge to Washington.
All right, moving along. We have the Chiefs and the Cardinals in the battle of exciting short quarterbacks. Well,
no.
Well, yeah.
One of them short.
The battle of poofy top crops.
There you go. The hair. Yeah. Hairstyle battle. That's what it is.
Oh, by the way, David Compton wrote this. He says, I'll try not to be so long-winded in my comments and just stick to who I think will win and who will lose. With that, I'll go with the Lions. Okay. And then Joseph Binsman said, Sports Illustrated has the Lions making the playoffs. I sure don't. And then he continues, Eagles beat the Lions, says Joseph Binsman. Their offense could really get good this year. Now, moving along, I remind everybody, guest invite link. Show your face on here if you want, if you dare. Have a take. Say something. Or don't. Or keep your mouth agape like Bill Carroll, who's yawning. But anyway.
I wasn't yawning. I was about to say something, but I thought you were done, but you kept speaking.
What say you, Mr. Carroll?
So here's the thing that's very interesting to me. And once again, we talked about how certain teams have a type. So if you look at the receivers who are not named AJ Green, the tallest of them is almost 5'10", right? Their receiver core as a group, when considered, you average it all together, is 5'8" and 7/8 is their average height. So Marquise Brown is 5'9" and a quarter. Rondell Moore is 5'7" and 3/8. Andy Isabella is 5'8" and a half. Greg Dortch is 5'9" and a quarter. Right? I've never seen this, except we're going to go way back to what used to call the Smurfs, way back in the day. And so it's been a long time since I've seen a wide receiver core where no one is 5'10". One is 5'10". They have somebody who's almost 5'10". They have 2 guys who are over 5'9", and 5'9" and a fraction, but nobody's 5'10", except AJ Green. So they have one guy who's over 6 feet, AJ Green, but the rest of them, the front line and backup guys are all less than 5'10". Fascinating. And then obviously we talked about the quarterback. So there's a lot of guys who can buy suits off the rack amongst that offensive skill group. For me, this is going to come down to, can they generate any pass rush now that they've lost one of the most underrated but great pass rushers of the last 10 years, right? When they wave goodbye to Chandler Jones and they replace in air quotes, him with a combination of Marcus Golden, Marcus Golden, Jeremiah Ledbetter. They drafted Myjai Sanders, but none of those guys are. That's the point I'm making. Justin James Watt is coming towards the end of his, probably Hall of Fame career.
Probably. He's a definite first ballot lock. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I know guys just as good who aren't in the Hall of Fame yet.
That's also true too. I can't blame you.
So
Dilwig,
he has the advantage of having great relationships with the press. So you're probably right.
Yeah. It's a shame I have to say it like that, but then again, hopefully it changes one day. But so far, I'm not exactly the happiest.
Alfred London Bubba Baker is still waiting. Right?
That's true.
I could go down a list. Simeon Rice still waiting. It's Jonathan Abraham. It's a long list of guys with great pass rush.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But he's no longer what he was. He's essentially a part-time player who's still versatile, still talented.
You're a part-time player. I always wanted to say that.
But not what he used to be. Rashad Lawrence and Lecky Fotu are going to be the guys in the middle. Zach Allen is a big, powerful guy, but not tremendous at getting to the quarterback. They have Dennis Gardeck, who is a former terrific special teamer who's now worked his way into the rotation, and Cameron Thomas, they just drafted, and Victor Dimukeje, who they got a couple years ago, are in that mix. But none of those guys has ever proven they can consistently get pressure on the quarterback. I worry about their pass rush. I really do. And I think if they can't get pressure on the passer, they're going to end up getting gashed on. I mean, we've seen if you don't get pressure on Mahomes, we've seen what he does to people.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that it's going to be an exciting game, but at some point the Chiefs just pull away and probably win this by about, I don't know, somewhere between 7 and 10 points, 9 probably.
All the while proving that they're geniuses. Okay, moving along. We come to the Raiders visiting the Chargers in the latest version of a classic AFL battle, hitting two of the league's best quarterbacks. Derek Carr representing the visiting Raiders versus Justin Herbert, or is it Habert? At any rate, does he drink white wine or red wine? I don't know, but I know that he's 6'6" and plays a hell of a game at quarterback. Playing in what promises to be an epic battle that should be flexed to Sunday night, but will not be. Vinny, what do you think about this incredible matchup?
Well, I do agree with you. Let's also be agrees. Cowboys Buccaneers is prime time again. Is because it's the Cowboys and 2 Tom Buccaneers. But truthfully, actually think the AFC West. I know it's not a stretch to say the AFC West. I see 3 teams making the playoffs, and I see the Chiefs winning that division. I think the Broncos, despite having a winning record, will be the odd man out in that team because I think mostly because the Broncos, I see. I don't know. I'm just not as big into their defense. But as for the Raiders, I think they've gotten better. The only reason why I see the Chiefs making is because you have Mahomes, and even then I see him as a 6 or 7 seed. I think the division title is going to come down to the Chargers and the Raiders at the end of the day, and I think it's going to be split with the home team getting both ones. So I think in this case, the Chargers would get their revenge on their own misfortune in week 18 of last year. But don't worry, I see them getting revenge later on in the season.
Bill Carroll, what say you?
This is a fascinating game. I love this game. This is my favorite matchup of the whole week 1. I think it's going to be the most compelling and the most interesting. Offensive line play is going to decide this game. So in the case of the Los Angeles Chargers, I've been practicing that. They have Corey Lindsey, who, I mean, people talk about Green Bay and, they always focus on Devontae Adams. I think the most impactful loss is actually Corey Lindsey, who is a terrific – Linsley is a terrific center. And I think there's a drop. Green Bay's going to see a drop between, him and the guys are going to trot out now. Zion Johnson was one of my favorite players in last year's draft, my number 25 prospect. And they have him slotted at right guard. I worry about Trey Pipkins at right tackle. So that's the one player. I would move Max Crosby around, but I would have him attack Trey Pipkins III quite a bit, and Storm Norton backs him up. Both those guys are decent players, but they struggle with elite pass rushers. So, having the ability to move Chandler Jones and Max XX Crosby around to attack, really that's our one real weakness. It's otherwise a very good offensive line. Filer is one of the better Pittsburgh offensive linemen, of course, now left Pittsburgh, so yikes there for Pittsburgh Steelers fans. But Jeremiah Sawyer is also solid, so their left guard position has good players. Rashawn Slater is an elite left tackle. And I don't see quite the same level of line talent for the Raiders. But the Raiders have now narrowed the gap in pass rush. I mean, I really like what they've done. Because they went from having, and no offense to, some of the guys they drafted, but they had tried drafting pass rushers, and the only one who really panned out was Max XX Crosby. All the others were, left something to be desired. But I love Chandler Jones. And now that moves Cleveland Farrell into a depth role, which is much better for him. I like Bilal Nichols. He's an underrated interior pressure player who comes over from Chicago. I think Max Crosby has another double-digit sack season, and Chandler Jones also has a double-digit sack season. They have an interesting player whose name most people don't know, but watch out for him. He's a very special teams guy who's now developing into a linebacker, former safety in college, Divine Diablo from Virginia Tech. Watch out for him. Plus, a cool name. Denzel Perryman is another one of those, green dot guys, high football IQ, can move around. To me, now here's the proper use of the term secret weapon. The secret weapon, in my mind, for the Raiders defense is young Nate Hobbs from University of Illinois, who I think is about to make the jump from a good, solid to a close to elite level corner. And if that does happen, and if they can stay healthy, which is always a big question about the rest of their secondary, but Trayvon Morag is another talented player, and if Jonathan Abram can play under control and stay healthy, he has a chance to be good, but he has thus far not managed to play under control and stay healthy. But I love they brought in Daron Harmon, right, as a free agent from Atlanta, and Anthony Averett, who came as a free agent from Baltimore, gives them really good depth in that secondary. And I really like their nickel, Amik Robinson from Louisiana Tech, really fast, undersized, but super quick and fast. I'm going to go Raiders in a super close game. I think this game comes down to literally the last play or last couple of plays of the game. I think Derek Carr leads, as he has led this team more than any other team since he's entered the league as a starting quarterback, to a final drive in the fourth quarter that seals the victory. And he leads the league since he's entered the league in fourth quarter drives for victories. I think he gets one more.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Raiders win this one big for one reason. They've got, for the first time in quite a while, a plug-and-play coach in Josh McDaniels. However, let me adjust this. I was going to be charitable and fan-like and all that, but this little thing kicked into my head. And it has to do with a concern I have about the Raiders coach under Josh McDaniels, the offensive line. I have deep concerns about their inability of their linemen to consistently find an anchor point when they pass block. And I'm going to go with something that I said a few weeks ago. I think releasing Alex Leatherwood was a scapegoat for bad coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I am not sold on this organization's ability to pull off that big season that I want them to have and others want them to have. And I'm saying this with a great deal of pain because I don't want to say it. Okay, I don't want to say it, but I'm compelled to say it because I believe there is a truth in a feeling that I have that while McDaniels has improved since his last time at the Broncos,
Sure,
but there's still this element of immaturity that causes him to say to himself, okay, I've learned this. I know it will work, so I'm not going to worry about adjusting it. Look what I said. I'm not going to worry about adjusting it. It's not that he's not going to use novel approaches. For example, I love the way the Raiders spread their wide receivers wider than any other organization that I've seen this year. They understand space and speed and short passing. They employ the Bill Walsh offense concept. But it's that offensive line blocking and this way of yelling. Like you're taking a 27-year-old man, you're talking to him like he's 7. That I think is going to wear on the players and not cause him to get the best out of them. I know Al. I know Mark thinks that his dad's way is of the dodo in the 20th century, but the Raiders got the best of cast-offs because they treated them like adults. Yelling at people and treating them like they're kids and not understanding how to manage them is something that is going to catch up with John. But I don't think it's going to be, and I'm not going to predict this crash and burn at all. A, because I don't think it's going to happen. B, because I don't want it. I'm simply saying that I think this is more a 11 or 12 win organization, that they're on a par with the Chargers, that the weakness of this game is going to be the Raiders' offensive line versus the Chargers' pass rush. I'm being very pointillist in my criticism, okay? In part because I want to see that team is better, but what they had wasn't bad. They just went to the playoffs. So I will say that this game is a toss-up for me. It really is. I was all set to, as you heard me state initially, Raiders are going to blow them out. Sure, I wanted to come out wearing black, 6 guns a-blazing, bald, like Otis Sistrunk, friend of the family, and all that, sort of rock. But when I really put my cranium to it, I just cannot eke out a win. I'm sorry, Raider Nation, I can't. I think it's going to be a toss-up. Anybody else want to comment before we? I didn't mean to make everybody so quiet.
Oh no, I think what's the next game on the docket?
Next game on the docket is we have 2. Actually, we have 3. Packers is in order. Packers, Vikings are next, followed by Cowboys, Bucks. Then lastly, the Broncos, the Seahawks on Monday night.
Well, did we talk about Giants and Titans?
Sort of.
We did not.
No, I guess we didn't.
I think the Titans are going to win.
Hold on. Wait. Hold on. Okay, this is perfect because there's a meme where there's a little moment from Stand By Me where the Jerry O'Connell character says, "You want to see a dead body?" So I kid because I care, Giants fans. Now here's what I will say. I do believe that they will improve somewhat. The end of the Judge era will give them a little more success than they saw in the past. But that's another team that's got to they're still turning that roster over, and that they're still a couple years away. They have some talented pieces, but they don't all fit together. And they've got to fix it all. I mean, I keep saying this, but offensive line is still the hardest thing to put together. It's the hardest thing to do, right? Is to get a really good, cohesive offensive line. Only a handful of teams really can say, oh, we're fine, right? A handful. Most of the teams in the league are still trying to upgrade or fix or something. And the Giants are very much in the, oh, my God, we're still trying to fix our offensive line category. And I've been hard on Daniel Jones. But in his defense, I will say that they've had a lot of change in offensive philosophies. The offensive line has never been good in the time he's been there. A lot of their best players have gotten injured. That being said, he still isn't good. And Joe Burrow, has been through some things. I mean, a lot of young quarterbacks have been through things and still developed, and he has not. This is obviously his last chance. And Brian Daboll is well known as a quarterback whisperer. He better whisper a little louder than he normally is used to if he wants to get Daniel Jones turned around. If he does do that, then, he deserves everything. If he manages to get Daniel Jones, right and out there functioning as a top 10 quarterback, then Brian Daboll is maybe the best offensive mind going. But if that isn't the case, this team is going to be in contention for the first overall draft pick.
I'm guessing, what do you see happening, Zennie?
What I see happening is the Titans prevailing with a powerful defense and Derrick Henry.
I thought you were going to say for a second that the Giants are going to beat the Titans by like 50 points or something.
Yeah, because you've been rolling, like trying to roll those double sevens. But yes, it'll be fun. It was interesting to see if you decided to go all the way off the edge, but you pulled back.
No,
he's bold. He's bold.
I remind you, I just called a toss-up the previous game. So
yeah, let's remember, Bill. Zennie may be bold, but he's not crazy.
Thank you.
And now I know that game was a good litmus test. So good. It shows that you are still compos mentis.
Whatever that means.
I guess still right in the head. Packers.
What does that mean, Bill?
I mean, right. Well done. Somebody remembers their Latin.
I never took Latin. I can't remember the things I never took. What are you talking about?
Control of one's mind, your inner sanity. That's what it means, right?
Yes, correct. Yes.
Do you just look that up on Google?
No, I have a feeling that's what it was like based on just the compass mentis, your mental state. It just makes sense to me.
Yes, it means that your faculties are intact and that you are mentally competent. Yes, that is correct. Okay, next.
I'm feeling pretty. Hey, I'll take that. Dave Compton, thank you very much for what Pomsey would call the firebomb. Pomsey is a famous Las Vegas blogger. And moving along, we have the Packers visiting the Vikings.
Oh boy!
In what I believe is going to be another trap game.
I could see this too, honestly.
Yeah. Vinny, what say you?
The way I look at the Vikings team is, you don't have Mike Zimmer anymore.
One moment. David says, "Hey, Zennie, I enjoyed your show, but I have a honey-do list. Have a good day. Keep it the good work." Dave, thank you for all you do. Thank you for the firebomb. God bless you. Just got to get that in. Sorry, go ahead.
You see, when it comes to the Vikings, they are in a state of transition with Kevin O'Connell now as their head coach. And, you no longer just completely retooling, but you still have Daniil Hunter, see if he's still healthy. Plus, you also have Kirk Cousins still there. And meanwhile, the Packers side, you lost Corey Lindsey, and most importantly, you lost Devontae Adams, and you also lost Zadarius Smith. You let him go to the Vikings now, so you're going to be against him week 1.
Zadarius Smith revenge game.
Another revenge game. We got ourselves a Baker Mayfield revenge game. We got ourselves our Joe Flacco revenge game, if you really want to buy into that. And we have ourselves, of course, the Zadarius Smith revenge game. And the real question is, will Zadarius Smith, he's played decently in the preseason, will Zadarius Smith find a way to get the job done, seeing a somewhat weakened Packers offensive line? Will he and his Vikings get the job done in Minneapolis? The answer is yes. I actually do see that happening week 1. The Packers, I do not see winning 13 games for a 4th season. Getting 3 was huge enough. But this Packers team, I do think, will take a bit of a regression. I still see them winning their division, probably win like 11 games or something. But I think the Vikings could be a real threat. Could be a real dark horse potentially for the playoffs. So I have the Vikings getting the W here.
What say you, Bill?
The only reason I'm going to disagree with my very perceptive young friend, well, here's the secondary of the Vikings. Patrick Peterson, who was awesome until about 3 years ago. Harrison Smith, who is still very good, but has lost a step, as you would expect if someone gets to the point in their career. Cameron Bynum is a very interesting young player at free safety, and he's capable of making big plays. And I think he will make some big plays, but I think there'll be big plays for both teams. I think he'll make some big plays for the Vikings and also a couple of big plays for the Packers. Cameron Dantzler is, professional.
He's a professional football player, yes.
I really do like Shandon Sullivan there, Nickelback. Lewis Seen is backing up Bynum, and I think he'll see some time when they go big nickel. And then Andrew Booth, I think at some point becomes their other cornerback. I think at some point Cameron Dantzler becomes depth. He's listed as a starter now. I think that maybe 5 or 6 games into the season that will switch. But I think they're going to exploit the quickness advantage they're going to have because with the exception of Cameron Bynum, who is an elite level athlete, and Lewis Seen, actually this is an odd situation where the two most athletic guys in their back in the defensive backfield are both free safeties, right? Bynum and Seen are freak athletes. The other guys are either guys that used to be super athletic but are old, like Smith and Peterson, who used to be great athletes, or now are closer to average just due to age. And then Dantzler is a below average athlete at the corner position, which is not something I like in corners. I'm not a big fan of not very athletic cornerbacks. So I think he's getting picked on. And I think the person that picks on him is young Romeo Doubs. I think this is the coming out party for young Romeo Doubs. I think he absolutely abuses Cameron Dantzler. And they get a classic, you've seen this movie before, right? The Packers get off to a slow start. Rodgers doesn't look good at first. Vikings get up, a couple of touchdowns. They're feeling good about themselves. They go to halftime. And then right before halftime, Rodgers leads the Packers, who look dead in the water on a late last second of the half touchdown drive. And so it's 17-7 now instead of 17-zip at halftime. And then you know how the movie turns out. Aaron Charles Rodgers gets the ball back with 1 minute and 48 seconds, drives them down by 4 for a touchdown. They win by 3. I know, sorry, Vikings fans. You've seen this movie a million times. You don't want to see it again. Then turn the television off at halftime, and you'll feel like you won.
The Vikings will beat the Packers in their home. Make all the Norse people happy. Shock the United States. And effectively render the Aaron Rodgers era on its way down for 1 week, and 1 week only. Kind of like what happened last year with the Saints.
I like that. It's over for a week.
Yeah, just for a week. Just for a week. Just for a week. Just for a week. Just for a week.
Let them appreciate this week.
But
yes, right.
The one thing that I always go with is new coach, new pattern. New pattern, no book. No book, you have no idea what this guy's going to do. And that's what plays in the favor of the Vikings. So here we have a scenario where their hated rival comes into their home and they're a brand new team, top to bottom. The Packers have no freaking clue what the Vikings are going to do. They only know that they have a proven quarterback in Kirk Cousins, very talented players, particularly on defense and at wide receiver, an effective offensive line, particularly in run blocking, and a guy named Dalvin. It really should be of the Bucks, but that's another story.
Yeah.
Remember that? Remember that, Bill?
Yeah, my only concern, like I said, is that secondary, which is
I just don't
scary.
I think that when you have a coach, I'm placing a lot of faith on the idea that this guy
knows what he's doing.
Is going to produce a game plan that's going to give the Packers fits. But when you have a player or coach rather with this much talent and he has a clean slate, that's a dangerous combination. And I can't bet against them. And I can't see, which is what this is all about after all, right? I cannot see the Vikings losing at home against the Packers. Because what's the best antidote to someone's great reputation? A new coach and a new plan ready to go with exceptionally talented players and a roster crafted to stop you. That's a dangerous combination. So with that, we move over to, oh my Lord, the Buccaneers
against the Dallas Cowboys in Sunday Night Football.
Vinny, what's it look like for Sunday night, man?
Okay. No Rob Gronkowski anymore. But potentially good news. He may be coming back. Maybe. No guarantee. There is some rumors that he could potentially return. But let's
as
also
it gets to Jerry Jones box. Yes.
in the jury. Maybe he could renew his contract with Fox, but NBC is doing this game, so either way, he's not going to be with Al Michaels. That's for sure. As for who else, head coaching, Todd Bowles is now the head coach of the Buccaneers, not Bruce Arians anymore. Also forget his name, the guard for the Buccaneers, not Ryan. What?
Ryan Jensen's their center, but he's
not Ryan Jensen, the other guy, the guard.
Ali Marpet.
Ali Marpet, that's one. He retired, so that's going to be a dent in their. That's going to be a dent in their machine, but they still have an amazing offensive line still. It's mostly the same team. The Cowboys, on the other hand, I know for a fact that Micah Parsons is going to year 2 of his career.
Speed.
I also think that the Cowboys are going to be, still a somewhat similar team compared to last year. And I think it's going to be I don't know why. I just have a hunch that in this case, it's going to be reverse of what happened last year, in which you had the Buccaneers win at home against the Cowboys. If the Cowboys, made a couple kicks, they would have won that game. In this case, I see the Cowboys getting the job done this time.
Bill.
The Cowboys are going to be the Super Bowl champion of the first 6 weeks of the season. They're going to look great for 6 weeks. Enjoy it, fans. Now, unfortunately, the season is not 6 weeks long. But they're going to look great. They might be one of the last teams to even pick up a loss. They play in a fairly weak division. They really do have a really nice roster. But as is often the case, the wheels will eventually come off the wagon. But it's the game 1, so let's just focus on game 1. So here's the thing that worries me most about this roster for the Buccaneers. Okay, Tristan Wirfs is one of my favorite. I mean, he was my number 1 tackle and a top 6 prospect. I thought that when he came out in the 2020 draft. I've loved him, and he's going to be great for many years. Shaq Mason, former tackle with New England, is now a guard with the Buccaneers, and of course, very familiar with Mr. Brady and what he expects. He's going to be fine. Luke Gadecki, Central Michigan prospect, is obviously a rookie. He'll have some good days and some bad days, but he's stepping in for where Ali Marpet used to be. In fact, both guards are new, right? Mason and Gadecki are both replacing guys that were there before. Donovan Smith is back, and he's, maybe not an elite or top-tier left tackle, but he's good enough. But here's, I think, the linchpin of this game is Robert Hainsey. Robert Hainsey is a person that most people don't even know exists, quite frankly. He is a guy.
Not even himself. Just kidding.
Well, I mean, he had a nice little career at Notre Dame, and when they signed him originally thinking he was going to be depth, obviously, but then when they lost Ryan Jensen, who I think is their most important offensive lineman, they suddenly are faced with him as the starter. I believe that he's not a bad player. Let me make that very clear. He's not a bad player. But the difference between what he can do, both physically and mentally, and how much leadership Ryan Jensen was responsible for, because he really is the leader of that offensive line. His loss will make that offensive line less effective as a whole. And Tom Brady is not the kind of guy that is tremendously effective if his offensive line is not solid. Like, he's not the same guy. If you're getting, you don't even have to hit him. If you're just around him a lot, he's not the same guy. Russell Gage is a good player, but, he's not quite what they're used to either. He'll be okay. Now, Mike Evans is going to go off and go crazy. So Mike Evans is going to have a great game. 2 touchdowns, probably about 116 yards.
He was a Twitter trend today. Do you know why?
Why?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, because he got inducted to the Texas A&M Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw Mike Evans
along with Paul Manziel and Luke Jokel all got inducted into the Texas A&M Sports Hall of Fame together.
I interviewed Luke Jokel, king of the vertical set blockers.
I did as well. A very shout out to my friend Alex Brown, who was a teammate of his at Grace Episcopal Prep, who helped to put that together.
I really want to ask this about Luke Jokel. How come his career completely imploded?
Because he wasn't a good enough athlete. At some point, I mean, what happened to Khalil, right? These guys were both All-Americans. But if you have a weak lower body, if you are not explosive, and you can be consistently rocked back because you don't have the ability to anchor, because you have a weak lower body and you're not explosive, if you're a guy who's not super strong, but you're very explosive, you can sort of make up your lack of strength by by changing your positioning and being able to re-anchor because you have that quickness. But if you lack quickness, you lack explosiveness, and you have a weak lower body, you are in for a short career.
Well, Bill, he did play a very good left tackle at A&M. And he had a really good, because he was playing a vertical set block. You think maybe he was just in the wrong offense a lot?
I think that was part of it, but he also, I think he had a 26.5-inch vertical. Like, that's not what you want. I am 54 going on 55. I can still go over 26.5 inches in my vertical. So that's not what you want in a top flight offensive line prospect. So he just lacked lower body pop. He couldn't really anchor well. He lacked lower body strength. He wasn't super flexible either. So that's a bad combination, right? If you're not very flexible, you have a weak lower body, you struggle to anchor. It's not a great combination. Matthews, I was more excited about Matthews, who was his teammate on the other side playing right tackle when they were in college, than I was about Jokel. At least because Matthews was an above average athlete at the position.
Yeah. All right. So where are we with the?
Oh, but yeah, I have Dallas winning this, and I think at least in part because of their ability to exploit the weaknesses that they now have. And Robert Hainsey, once again, I think he's a solid player. He's professional, but he's not Ryan Jensen, and it's going to take them a while to adjust to the loss of Ryan Jensen.
For some particular reason, I want to pick the Cowboys in this, but I have a difficult time doing so because I want to see, and I think I will see, a Bucs team that has a more advanced offense now that Bruce Arians is upstairs. And I have been shielded by how the Bucs have changed themselves by all the flotsam and jetsam going on about Tom Brady that from a technical standpoint, I could care less about. So I'm going to do a pick 'em. I don't know who's going to win this game, but that's actually a win for the Bucs because I'm compelled to say that a Dan Ryan coach defense is a formidable opponent. But I really am sold on the relationships and scheme that Byron Leftwich hasn't been able to build and also install with respect to the scheme, right, at Tampa. The difference is speed. My concern about the Bucs offense is that they're not fast enough to counter the speedy defense of the Cowboys. You would say, what do you mean, Zennie? They're playing defense. What I'm saying is that the Cowboys are so fast off the ball that Tom could wind up seeing the turf 4 times. All right.
Yep.
At the very least. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And they're frighteningly fast.
Mm-hmm.
And the Buccaneers, for all their improvements on offense, I don't believe, but I'm happy to be wrong, have designed a fast off the ball offense that pays attention, that can counter it. Now they have a timed offense. They can go short. They have that in favor, but they don't have the wide receiver that can burn you anymore. Mike Evans, you would say Mike Evans, but Mike Evans is not. He's fast, he's speedy, but not fast enough to counter the Cowboys. He's not Chris Olave. All right, let's get out of it. CeeDee Lamb, on the other hand, is. All right. The CeeDee Lamb plays for the Cowboys, not the Bucs. So but with all that, I'm gonna go a pick 'em because of how well the Buccaneers are coached, because I really believe that organization is going to put together a plan to counter and neutralize the Cowboys' speed. I don't know how they're going to do it specifically, but I believe that's going to be their focus. But I don't know that it's going to automatically guarantee a win. So there I am. Now we come to the Broncos visiting the Seahawks. The game to which I say, ooh, Vinny, what say you?
Another revenge game. Man, this week is something. And it's by far the most anticipated revenge game of the entire week. Arguably one of the most anticipated games of the entire season. In a Super Bowl 48 rematch, the Weed Bowl, of course, those are the two states that legalized marijuana. And, former AFC West rivals back in the day.
What did you call it, the Weed Bowl?
Yes, Washington State and Colorado were the first two states to legalize recreational use of marijuana.
I thought you called it the Weed Bowl. I thought, what's Weed Bowl?
Weed Bowl.
Weed Bowl, right?
That's what they call Super Bowl 48.
Weed Bowl.
And it looked like the Broncos were high the entire game, considering how much the Seahawks shut him down. But in all seriousness, Russell Wilson, longtime Seattle Seahawks, future Hall of Famer, in my opinion, now playing for the Denver Broncos.
That's right.
Nathaniel Hackett is your new head coach. Not related, but somewhat related. You have Rob Walton, who owns not only Walmart, but the Denver Broncos as well. Condoleezza Rice is also part of that ownership group as well.
Don't forget Melanie Hobson.
Her as well. And
Star Wars.
You look at the Seahawks as a team. Everyone pegs this team, including myself, to finish last in their division. You have three teams that are playoff caliber at the very least. And you have the Seahawks who are looking to be in a rebuilding mode. And I completely agree 100%. As for the Broncos, I see them having a winning record as with everyone else in that division, but I actually see them being the odd man out, making the playoffs. Even though you can, in theory, have all four teams make it, I don't see it in this case. But at the same time, I think the Broncos are just a better team overall in terms of talent. And not only that, Russell Wilson knows Seattle pretty damn well, so I think he'll have no problem getting the W here for his new team.
Okay, Bill, what say you?
Well, I think that Seattle is another team that's legitimately a contender for the first pick of next year's draft. So
easily.
I don't think they're going to win many games against anybody. I think they're going to show you quickly why this is a team in desperate need of a reset. John Schneider got away with it for a while, doing it his way, and they reject a lot of conventional analytics and worked for a while, right? And then it didn't. They have a very specific way of doing things. They really, 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 really like Spark, right? The problem with Spark is it's a gumbo athletic metric. So if you really blow it out in one area, it distorts the rest of the measurement, right? So you end up with overvaluing certain things because the guy really killed it in one area.
Right.
They got to have a lot of work to do.
The Seahawks are just.
There's no part of that team you can point to say, wow, they're really strong there. Pass rush? Nope. Linebackers? Not anymore. Secondary, which used to be the pride and joy of that team? Nope. On offense, they have a ludicrous amount of really talented running backs as running the ball becomes less and less an important part of winning. The offensive line is better than it's been in a while, but it won't matter anymore. I mean, you've closed the barn after the horse has left. So there's a lot of work to be done. And this team is going to, like I said, look very different a couple years from now. I believe that I don't know if Schneider and Carroll survive together much longer. Maybe one or both of them are gone pretty soon. But yeah, this is not a good team, and they're not going to look good.
The highlight of this season for the Seahawks is going to be their game in the middle of November against the Buccaneers in Munich. That is easily my most anticipated game from the Seahawks this year, mostly because there's never been a professional game in Germany before. And if I'm being honest, that'll probably be the highlight of most of the players in the Broncos too. Not the Broncos. They're going to Munich because listen, after this kind of season, you're gonna need some nice beer to chill down. You're listen. I don't see the Broncos. I keep saying Broncos. I don't see the Seahawks being that good. I think they might be competitive in some areas, but you still have Pete Carroll coaching. But the Broncos, I see winning this, and yeah, I do see the Seahawks one of the worst teams in the league.
I just keep coming back.
Broncos follow my standard pattern of brand new organization, brand new coach, top to bottom, going up against not a division rival, but a competitor in a pivotal contest pitting their old quarterback. Okay, fine.
They were division rivals at one point.
This. That was then. This is now. This is a different story.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the attention to detail that Nathaniel Hackett brings to his preparation of the game. And I believe that as much as anything else is going to be the key in why the Broncos win big over the Seahawks. They are a team that has a formula all the way down to how they treat their players when they come out, to how they open the office in the morning, top to bottom. They're a truly professional organization. Quite very well may be the modern Dallas Cowboys. We'll see how this unfolds. I'm really excited beyond measure to see how this organization performs based on what changes they made, the people they brought in, and the people at the top who are running it who expect nothing but excellence. Okay. Mm-hmm. They even have altered their marketing DNA to better match what the city is looking for. They have played it so that their quarterback is an unchallenged leader, Christian, beautiful wife, great fan base on his own. They really thought this whole damn thing out on paper.
Mm-hmm.
They thought it out on paper, then going about executing it, and I love it. And it is that to say the Seahawks are not that way? It's to say the Seahawks used to be that way, but the Seahawks don't quite know how to replenish the products on the shelf efficiently. And so they get a quarterback in Geno Smith, who I think has the potential to be very, very good, but has the problem here that I'm interested to see if he overcomes in terms of learning to do that thing that produces a win when the going gets tough. It doesn't matter if it's 4th and 1 or they have the ball, they need a couple of touchdowns to come back, and it's the 4th quarter. All right? That's the test. But I don't think the scenario will occur where that's going to happen in this contest. I think the Broncos are going to win handily.
Yeah, easily, no question. I would say outside the Ravens game, this is the easiest bet for me. But
let's get to our questions.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Vinny. I didn't mean to do that to you. Go ahead.
Oh no, like how long do you think it's going to be before they decide to bring in Drew Lock as the starter? Did you see that happening? Do you think Geno's going to do it the whole way?
I don't know, because Drew is a great person, great guy in the community, but from a perspective of being a quarterback that can take you to the Super Bowl, to me, he was never that guy.
No, I agree.
Okay? And he is about on par with Geno for different reasons. And I think Geno's got to get over what I call the black thing. And early on, he started off with behaving in a way that didn't serve him well. He partnered with the wrong people. There were a lot of insecurities there. I think he's just getting over. But what do they have to do with on the field? Everything. Because Geno doesn't believe he can win. And his lack of belief in himself is literally poured into the team at the wrong moment, when they need that touchdown, when they need to come back. We saw that. I saw that three times last year. So if he's gotten his head together, I'm sold. But I'm not sold that they have worked on him that way. However, head coach Pete Carroll said that Gino's done everything they've asked him to do. He's always there. He always rings the bell, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's always trying.
Yep.
And he's always trying. That's half the battle. I root for Gino. So
I always have.
As do I. Here's my problem. Can he rush the passer? Here is their front. Shelby Harris, who's a solid professional, who's backed up by Quentin Jefferson, who's another solid professional. Al Woods, who's very good against the run, who's backed up by Brian Monet. Poona Ford is probably their best pure pass rusher, and he was a defensive tackle, but now they've gone to an odd front, so now he's listed as a 5-tech DN. Backed up by Miles Adams, who is a solid depth piece. Then they have Darrell Taylor and Anton Robinson at one outside linebacker. And the other outside linebacker is Uchenna Nwosu, backed up by Moy Mafe, who they just drafted from Minnesota. There's not a single one of those guys who's likely to get to 6 sacks this year in 17 games. That is not what you want. There is nobody, and Poona Ford's a good player, but there's nobody that keeps you up at night game planning anywhere on this defense. Oh my God, what do we do about, right? Jamal Adams is sort of like a poor man's Troy Polamalu, right? He makes a lot of plays close to the line of scrimmage, but can be had deep down the field. Tariq Woolen is incredibly talented, but super raw. The guy was playing wide receiver 3 years ago in college. He'll, I think, eventually figure it out, but not this year. He's backed up by Artie Burns, and Steelers fans can tell you that Artie Burns is, once again, not something that gives you a good feeling when he's out there.
Oh, no. Artie Burns does not give me a good feeling at all.
You
I'm
know,
not a Steelers fan, but when you see Artie Burns, what emotions go through your mind as a Steelers fan? Just as a Steelers fan, what goes through your mind when you see Artie Burns play?
I mean, once again, I wish him well, and he's good enough to be in the NFL, right? I mean,
Yes,
that's what I was
absolutely.
saying. He's good enough to be in the NFL. And he's not listed as a starter right now. The fact that they've got the incredibly raw Tariq Woolen ahead of him tells me everything I need to know. Right? That tells me everything I need to know, that Woolen's ahead of him on the depth chart. That says it all. And in fact, they have 2 rookies in their secondary listed as starters. Kobe Bryant's right now listed as their starting nickel, and Tariq Woolen's their starting right cornerback. And those are 2 talented young men, but they are rookies. They're going to give up some big plays this year. This is going to be a very challenging year for the Seahawks. They don't have really things you want to point to that say, wow, that's a difficult thing for the other team to deal with. Their 2 best players on offense are their 2 wide receivers. The next best player on offense is probably Rashad Penny if he can stay healthy, and then comes their quarterback. Their offensive line,
It's bad. It's really, really bad.
their
All right,
best.
we come to the point of the show where I have these questions. First,
Go ahead.
who'll be the top yardage passer?
I think it's probably going to be Derek Carr.
Derek Carr. What say you, Vinny?
You know, not even joking, I was thinking of Derek Carr as well. You know why? Because I think the Raiders have improved in the receiving game, and I think the Raiders are going to be one of the best teams in the NFL. The only reason why I don't see them winning their division is because they're in the AFC West.
Anthony Carrillo says it's going to be Josh Allen, but then he says, don't be surprised if it's Jameis Winston.
Wouldn't shock me.
Well, I love that for Jameis. I do. I love that for Jameis. I've wanted to see him succeed for a long time, and I think he's in the best situation he's been in. I mean, last year he was off to a great start before he got hurt.
The Saints would have easily made the playoffs if he was healthy. No question in mind.
Yes.
So, comeback player of the year.
It's an interesting question.
You go, Bill.
I think Saquon Barkley's going to have a big year. Well, I mean, The problem is the team won't be good. And I guess you need the team to be good also. Who else has a legit shot at this? Yeah, let me see. Who else I think is going to have a big bounce back season? I mean, I could potentially see the two people that come to mind are both running backs. I mentioned Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey. If the team is good, I mean, they don't have to be that good, I guess. If they're around 500, he has the kind of season I think he's going to have. He has a good shot at it as well.
For me, comeback player of the year has got to be Jameis.
Jameis has a good chance at it also.
If the Saints make the Saints make the playoffs and Jameis has a quality season, I think the very worst he should be top 3. But I'm thinking that if they potentially want to go based off of halfway through the entire season missing it, I could potentially see, I don't know, maybe Michael Thomas if he has a big season again. But when's he going to come back, Thomas?
Well, I think he's back.
He's back. I don't know why he's saying he's
practicing for a while, so I'm assuming he's fine.
Yeah,
he practiced fully.
Well, that's who I think. If it's someone on the Saints, either Thomas or Winston, one of those two.
Yeah, I can't see anybody topping Jameis. That's a heck of a turnaround, a feel good story,
right? But what if his turnaround also fuels like a 1,600-yard, 11 touchdown season for Michael Thomas? I mean, now you're splitting the vote. It'll be interesting to see if they both have huge seasons. What happens with that?
Well, if Michael Thomas has a huge season that way, it'll be because of Jameis Winston and the way that offense is designed. So, you can't do it without that. Now, okay, we've got top defense. Anthony Carrillo says comeback player. I'm sorry. Anthony Carrillo says comeback player is Christian McCaffrey. I think I already said that. But top defense, he says the Chargers, because Darren James locked up and Bosa Mac attack is going to need potent and crucial. Or I think he meant is going to be potent and crucial in a division that is loaded. So that's his thing. So what say you?
I have to go with the Chargers as well. I think the inclusion of Khalil Mack, and also I like the way their defense was last year. I think the addition of Mack really pushed over the edge for me, and so that's why I agree with him. I do believe the Chargers will be the best defense in the league, and that's why I see them as no joke. I actually see them winning that division this year because of that.
Bill? Hey, by the way, Notre Dame 10, Ohio State 7. 45 seconds left. Bill?
Well, I think the Saints are going to have a terrific defense.
Ditto.
I'm torn between the Saints and the Browns. I think I'm both going to have terrific defenses. Okay, let me think about this. This is tough.
I think the Saints are going to have a soul-crushing defense. I really do.
Oh, me too. I think their defense is going to be easily their strong point. Not saying their offense won't be good too, because I think they're going to be really bouncing, but the defense will be the heart and soul of that team.
Do they knock Mario out? Do they knock Mario out of the game?
I don't think necessarily they knock him out of the game. I do think, however, they keep him from ever being able to get comfortable in the pocket, and then he'll take off and run and get some yardage. But I think at some point he gets hit in the ribs, while he's doing that, and then that makes him think, maybe I don't need to be doing this quite much. Maybe I could just throw this ball away and not have that hit me in the ribs.
Bill and Vinny, they had this hype about Mariota's a great passer and he's done well in the preseason. And I'm sorry, but his first touchdown pass was a almost miss because he pumped and he let go of the ball too late,
right?
And had the receiver to slow down a bit, and it could have been an incompletion. It would have been really embarrassing. The other play that did turn into a decent throw was a touchdown, a timing pattern at the back of the end zone. But other than that, I didn't believe he was like world-beatingly remarkable. Okay.
Well, the knock on him always has been that people always talk about arm talent and arm strength, things like that. And they need to break down those terms into smaller pieces.
Yeah.
He has an ability to drive the ball in, once again, short to intermediate spaces on deeper passes, and it more has to do with how he sees how he should use trajectory, right?
Mm-hmm.
He does not do well at using the right trajectory on deeper passes, and because of that, he makes receivers, even though he has enough arm to get it there, he doesn't understand how to use trajectory correctly, so he makes receivers consistently chop their feet and slow down on deep passes. So he's had a bunch of things that were batted away or intercepted that should have been easy touchdowns. That's dogged his entire pro career.
That is definitely not Jameis' problem.
No, that's not a Jameis. Jameis is on the other end of the spectrum where he's sometimes, guys are having to dive or he has to sometimes throttle it down because his emotions, right? He's a guy who's very emotional, and when that adrenaline's flowing and you have a strong arm, you're going to overthrow guys, right? He, on a screen pass, he throws the ball through the chest of the running back sometimes, things like that. But if you can,
that was last year. You should see his practices this year.
Oh, he's gotten better. He's gotten better consistently.
A lot. Yeah, no, they really worked on him this time, man.
Yeah, so I think he's going to have a huge season. I drafted him
light years. He is the way he would have been if he had been coached by David Shaw at Stanford, and if he had not been with the Buccaneers, or if the Buccaneers had brought in a coach that knew how to design a ball control passing offense rather than what Dirk Cotter did. Nothing against Dirk personally, I like him, or what Bruce Arians did. Same comment, right? But they were both, and I think this came from the Bucs organization from the top that said, "Hey, look, we want touchdowns to sell tickets, and we want a power running game." And it's almost like trying to replicate the Raiders, but in Florida.
But then when they brought in, so Cutter was a guy that it was a little bit of a banquet, right? A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Then when they go to Bruce Arians, he's like, he tells Jameis, "Don't worry about interception." Well, that's the wrong guy to say that to, obviously. But Mr. No Risk It, No Biscuit said, "Yeah, just grip it and rip it, kid." And that's
the same thing he told Carson Palmer.
And a lot of other people, yes. And that's the wrong thing to say to a young quarterback who doesn't understand the calculus yet of risk versus reward anyway.
Right.
And so when you tell him, "Don't worry about interceptions, just, go out there and fling it and all that kind of stuff." Well, he's like, "Where have you been all my life, Bruce Arians?" And he's throwing the ball all over the place. And he did have a huge season. But the problem, of course, is the interceptions. And now that I believe he's fixed that, he's going to have a close to the same kind of numbers on the positive side, but probably less than, he'll cut to less than a third his interceptions. It'll probably be in the 8 to 10 realm with 37 to 40 touchdowns. I mean, he's going to have a really great season.
Actually, I think he's going to throw 50 touchdowns.
Well, I mean, you're the guy who goes big all the time.
This guy's going to – I think this guy's going to touch a record at some point in this season, okay?
Yeah, I think it's a big year. I'm not ready to go 50. I don't know if anybody goes to 50.
I am. I'm going 50.
Well, there's a 17 games, so that helps because really, that's 3 touchdowns a game gets you to 50. So you're right. Somebody probably does reach 50 this year with 17 games. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Question in regards to that: when do you see the NFL getting to 18 games in 20 weeks?
Let me come back to that one. Okay, we got to close out this one, but
well, enjoy watching a lot of backups, Vinny, when that happens.
Real quick. Coach of the year.
I'm going to say, and once again, I guess it'll be very different from who you would have chosen because you don't like him. But I think that it's Nick Sirianni in Philadelphia. I think they have a really good year, and whether it's in spite of him or because of him, he's going to get credit. So sorry, but I think they're going to have a really good year in Philadelphia.
What say you, Vinny?
I think that the coach of the year will be Brandon Staley. I believe that the defense of the Chargers will be the strong point, and I think it's going to propel them to be one of the top forces in the league. And I see them actually ending up with the 2 seed. Actually,
I think Dennis Allen. Now, moving along, playoffs. Who's in?
Do you want me to do division winners and then wild cards?
Any choice. You don't have to be thorough about it. Just your strongest feeling.
Why don't you go first, Bill?
Oh, okay. So teams that I believe are going to make the playoffs. I think that the Eagles make the playoffs. I think that the Ravens and the Bengals both make the playoffs. I think that, as we said before, all but one team, and I think that one team that doesn't from the AFC West is probably going to be Denver, but they're going to come very close. Literally on the last game of the year, they'll be playing, to get in. I think Green Bay and Minnesota get in. Yeah, sure, whatever. I think Minnesota ekes their way in. I think the Colts get in. I think that the Rams do. I think that in a surprise, the Bucks don't. That's my one moment of bold. That's my one moment of bold right there. The Bills get in. I think that the only team. No, I take it back. I think the Patriots eke their way into. They're one of those last week of the season get in kind of teams. So I think I've named all the teams that can get in from the AFC. Let me get back to the NFC.
It couldn't have been the Patriots, because if you're going to have two teams in the AFC North and three teams in the AFC West make it,
right?
I mean,
that is one too many.
Patriots.
Yeah.
Okay, then you know what? Knock the Patriots back out. There's my other moment of bold. So so neither of the teams that Tom Brady has played for will make it this year. And then back to the NFC. So see, I named a bunch of teams, but not
you said
all.
the Eagles. You said the Bucks won't make it. You said the Packers and the Vikings. You said the Rams. Anyone else?
Right. Well, I got a couple more because that's not enough yet. I think the Cardinals don't. 49ers do, though. So I guess that's bold-ish. Let me see. I have room for one more, right? I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
You don't have to get the whole thing right. Just who you think you have the strongest.
Right. I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss somebody. Hold on.
Doesn't matter.
You know what? Dallas as well. I think that's my last one. Dallas too. Yep, that's all.
These are my predictions for these are my playoff seedings starting with the division titles for the AFC. The one seed, I got the Buffalo Bills. I know that's not a real shock to many people, but I see them winning that division pretty easily. The 2 seed, I have the Baltimore Ravens. I believe that they would have easily won the division if they didn't get hurt at the very end of the season, and they went from 8-3 to 8-9 despite last place. I think that somewhat those 3 games of last place teams are going to help them out. I believe the Indianapolis Colts will be the 3 seed, winning the South. And because the AFC West is so tough, I think the Chargers will be the 4 seed. As for the wildcard teams, I see the Las Vegas Raiders getting the 5 seed. I think Derek Carr is going to have an outstanding season. The Kansas City Chiefs, I don't see winning the division, but I do see them as the 6th seed in the playoffs. And then lastly, I have the Cincinnati Bengals as the 7th seed, rounding up the AFC playoff picture. Now for the NFC, I have the Rams following their Super Bowl victory with the 1 seed and an NFC North championship. Move on to the 2 seed by a hair. I have the Buccaneers winning that. The 3 seed, I have the Green Bay Packers. It's more so because the conference is rather weaker. And the 4 seed, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. Then we go to the wildcard teams. I have the 5 seed, I have the Dallas Cowboys. The 6 seed, I have the New Orleans Saints. And the 7th seed, my final playoff team, I have the San Francisco 49ers eking their way in.
All right. I have really quick, we're going to wrap up. It's 9:17 and counting. NFC West Cardinals will win the division. NFC South, that will go to the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
NFC North, that will go to the Bears. NFC East will go to the Cowboys. For the AFC. For the AFC West, that will be the Broncos. For The AFC South, that will be the Titans. For the AFC North, that will be the Steelers. For the AFC East, that will be the Patriots. Super Bowl.
What about our teams, Zenny?
I'm not going to go that far yet. That's why I want to wrap it up because this is uncertain either. Super Bowl. I've got the Saints and the Steelers.
My Super Bowl prediction is a Bills victory over the Rams.
Oh, so you got the game coming up. This is the kickoff.
Yeah, I think this game will end up being. I know it's very shocking. It's a very safe pick. I usually do like the 2 number 1 seeds, but knowing how the playoffs work, it'll probably be like, I don't know, like maybe it will be the Saints. I'd love to see that.
So hey, folks, we are looking for a sponsor for this. So if you want to be on a mailing list of 85,000 strong and growing, and a subscriber list for YouTube, please email me right here at this email address, and I will send you a proposal deck, and we can go from there. Zenny and Zennie62media.com. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Vinny. Thanks, Vinny. Thanks, Bill. Thank you.
Anytime. Also, Bill, you forgot to say what your Super Bowl prediction is.
Oh, well, I have the Chiefs getting about a 13-point lead on Green Bay. And then once again, in the last seconds, Aaron Charles Rodgers in an improbable, post corner hits Alan Lazard, who just barely gets his toes down in the corner of the end zone on the last play of the game for the win.
And that'll be the last word. So, folks, we'll be back. We'll be right back. Stick around in the background, folks. Subscribe to Zennie62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnowblog.com. That ends this broadcast.